You're up and it's still dark. Kick back with a cup of Joe. You know you've got friends waiting on 1620 The Zone. It's Happer and Schaefer. It's Connor and Mike. Listen on the radio stream or YouTube or podcasts. Anytime it feels right. It's Happer and Schaefer. Happer and Schaefer.
All right, good morning and welcome in. Happy Thursday. It's Happer and Schaefer on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, the Zone Radio Network. Hi, everybody. Are we ready? Mike Schaefer live from Houston. Say something.
How are we doing?
Good.
How's
Good.
it sound? Is there noise?
I think you sound fine. Yeah, I don't hear any noise except for you, which is a good thing. That's what I want to hear.
Well, everybody else should still be sleeping, I would assume. So, we're up and it's still dark. It's very foggy. You can't really see out the window here in Houston. So we've got that going on.
Is it going to be 100 degrees today like it was in Oklahoma City last week?
No, I think it's just mid 80s. It was nice yesterday. Apparently the 4 days in OKC have me like ready for the warmth. Just wandered around. It was nice out yesterday. Nothing more to report otherwise, weather-wise.
Excellent. Well, Mike Schaefer is in Houston because tonight is a game of great significance. Nebraska and Iowa in the Sweet 16. Mike Schaefer also has his Cleveland Guardians stuff on today, which is absolutely fantastic. It's opening day for most. It's not opening day for the Giants and the Yankees who played last night. It's also not opening day for the Royals. So I didn't feel festive enough to wear my Royals stuff today. So I guess I'll wait till tomorrow.
It's also not opening day for me.
Well, you don't care about baseball, Joey. It's not opening day for you ever.
I'm surprised we made it this far without Joey just jumping in to talk about Celtics Thunder, which I don't even know if he was able to watch.
I didn't get to watch the game yesterday.
Here we go.
I didn't. I'll talk about this later today, but I am really upset about the whole situation.
What are you upset about?
It was a big game. The Thunder could not get the game on. They couldn't get the game on ESPN because the Thunder already reached its limit on nationally televised games.
Okay.
But then I paid for a team pass, which should guarantee me watching all the Celtics action, but apparently the blackout is still in force. Therefore, I can watch the game, but there's the FanDuel Midwest channel.
So yeah, they don't have all of them on the channel, that we get locally here. Like they would have them all in like Oklahoma City, but we have to share that with Minnesota. And, not Denver though.
That was kind of the reason they started their game, I think, against the Rockets or Clippers at 8:30. So they could still make it work. I don't know.
Joey, I also couldn't help but notice your shirt today is very. It seems like you made a stylistic choice there.
Yes, I did.
Would you like to describe your shirt to people?
It's Creighton's lone Elite Eight appearance.
Okay, Nebraska is trying to match that tonight.
Win it for the shirt.
The Nebraska version of Joey is hoping to wear that shirt by the end of the night. That's basically what I'm taking away here.
Yeah, with how fast they printed those Sweet 16 shirts, there's actually a chance of that. I think they really got those out quick.
Yeah, well, we'll see in the arena in Oklahoma City. Those shirts, like there's like a Nebraska specific NCAA tournament shirt. I think they had sold those out in like 12 minutes after the doors open.
Yeah. I'm curious, Schaefer, as to what the Nebraska fan representation.
Yeah, I am too, because I haven't seen.
I
have not seen near the volume, and some of it is just Houston's just a very different setup than Oklahoma City, where you have the arena and you have that whole area around it, and most people were either going to try to stay or spend their time around there. Here, I don't know that there's like a singular district that you go to try to take over. The arena's downtown next to all the other downtown attractions and things. And it's just I didn't see anybody out last night wearing Nebraska
Mm.
stuff. Now, part of that is where I'm at. We're like right by the Houston campus. So I didn't see anybody in Houston Cougars gear either, even though we are right by the campus. Just a bunch of college kids, basically, that may or may not know that this game is happening. It's not
It's
entirely
possible
sure.
that they don't. It's possible that they don't. Yeah, I'd be curious to see. I mean, there was, it's obviously a little bit difficult, more difficult to travel. You're coming off of last weekend where everybody was there. And I think people may have been scared off a little bit by some of the videos they've seen on the internet of trying to go through TSA and things of that nature. I
Wouldn't
am
bank on me being back on Monday, by the way.
I was gonna say, like, I wanted to get your level of concern where it's risen to at this moment. You're leaving on Sunday, no matter what.
Well, that's the plan. I mean, no matter what, and assuming Nebraska wins tonight, I suppose there could be a flight change if they don't. We'll see, but it's I don't know. It every like I'd say every about 8 hours, I just go do like a check on the Houston TSA or IAH TSA, and sometimes the report comes back like, "Hey, wait lines haven't been as long as the day before," or they appear to be getting better, and then there's another update where it's like, or they're getting worse, much worse.
Well,
Everyone be concerned.
you just got to spend a lot of time at the airport. Sadly, I mean, the planes are taking off fine. Unfortunately, I think you just have to get to the airport.
Inside security
Really?
is fine.
Yeah.
The problem is trying to navigate the determination as to whether you need to be there 4 or 6 or 8 hours ahead. Those are very different numbers.
Mhm.
And so, sitting at the airport, whatever, I've done that before. It's the idea of trying to, nail when exactly this magical time in the future that you can get through this line is really going to be. I mean, the rest of the Houston airport was fine when we walked through it yesterday. So, it's not like there's big issues outside of security. Noticeably, it wasn't overwhelmed, which might have something to do with what's happening at the security part of it. But we'll worry about that in the future. There's bigger concerns.
There might be two more games before you leave.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Nebraska and Iowa tonight in the Sweet 16. We'll talk about it plenty as we go on throughout the show today. Nebraska is a slight favorite. I'm looking at KenPom right now where it says Nebraska is going to win 69-66. These two teams
Nice.
have played
Sign
each
the
other
contract.
twice. That is not a contract that is being offered right now. These two teams have played each other twice this year, and they both were pretty competitive games. The one, of course, going to overtime, and the other ending in an Iowa court storming where a guy with a phone, got in front of Fred Hoiberg's face. I've been amazed, Schaefer, at how little that's been talked about this week. At least I haven't heard for as much as I thought this was going to be sort of like an apocalyptic week in terms of Nebraska versus Iowa. And mostly I'm talking about just stuff that happens in between the fans and the internet and all that stuff. It hasn't been. It really hasn't been. I think there's a couple things there. First of all, we overshoot everything. Second of all, it is, I think both teams are pretty pleased as to where their seasons have ended, if they do end indeed in Houston this weekend. At some point, whether it's in this game or the next one, both teams are pretty pleased with their seasons overall. And so maybe it's just like, there's not quite as much oomph as we maybe thought there was going to be.
Yeah, and it's just the Houston aspect of it too removes it from being extremely regional to, I didn't see a single Iowa player. I think the Iowa SID was the only person I saw at the arena yesterday. I didn't even see Sean Bach or Iowa media members. So even the media stuff, you just didn't see him around the Toyota Center. And then the focus, especially, the Nebraska focus is on themselves. Obviously, they know that they're playing Iowa, but as they were quick to point out, you played a team 2 times already. There might be some different wrinkles. There might be some different stuff, but for the most part, their personnel, what they're about to do, and you know what you have to take care of to help better your chances to win on Thursday night.
Yep. So a lot to look forward to, and we'll dive into a lot of the angles coming up today on the show. All right, here's what we got today. We're pretty loaded. We got a lot of different things coming up. We're excited for you guys to be here. So normal guests, Brian Christopherson, Max Olson will join us today during the show, 8:30 and 9:15, 8:25 and 9:15, 9:20 as always for BC and Max. So we'll talk to them, which is exciting. Josh Peterson, who is in the same house as you right now, will join us as he has the last weekend from the location of the NCAA tournament. This weekend, it is on powered by Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill, which has the tailgate today, which is exciting before the game begins this evening. So Josh will join us at 7:30, and I'm curious to see if we'll be able to hear each other on your guys' streams through the walls or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by how this is going to go. So we'll see if the internet holds up all of those wonderful things. So it's
you sound fun right now.
Yeah, you sound good.
It doesn't appear like there's any internet issues at the moment, but of course, like you said, nobody else in the house is awake, I'm sure, right now.
Yeah. Well, look, it's early enough. We'll see how it goes. Maybe they resolved some stuff last night. I know Josh did his show from here yesterday, and he said it got laggy at times, but for the most part, he was able to do it. So
yeah, they did like a 9-hour show last night again, and I checked in for a brief moment in time. Once I realized it was happening, I saw you on there, and I was like, "Oh, this internet looks fine. It looks like you guys are doing okay." So I don't know. I am optimistic. Let's say that. Josh will join us. Go ahead.
You should ask Josh how long it took for him to set up that 9-hour show. By the way, yeah, there's a lot that went into that.
Okay. Well, maybe I should go back and give it a listen because he worked so hard on it. Maybe we will at 7:30 today when Josh joins us on the show. And we are excited to be joined by the new Creighton basketball head coach, Alan Huss, coming up at 9:00 today. He was officially introduced yesterday as the next head coach. Greg McDermott was in attendance and spoke a little bit off to the side. They'll kind of continue to keep the same setup for the crown, which is coming up next week. But I think there's probably a little bit more of working behind the scenes during this part of the year and things like that. For all intents and purposes, it is Huss's team at the moment. So we're excited to be joined by Huss coming up at 9:00 today. That is our lineup. And we're excited for all of our guests today. Oh, also, I should mention this, and we didn't do it last week because we were caught up in all the other junk. I have an opinion is coming up today. I have an opinion. So get in your opinions, 402-951-1620. We'll do that at 8:00, and we will let that thing fly coming up today in just a little while. So once again, 402-951-1620. On the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline. You can call or text that number. Tweet on the Liquid Trucking Zone Twitter feed at HappenSchafe, at Connor Happer, at Mike J. Schaefer. There, email Connor, Mike, 1620zone.com on the Equitable Bank Zone inbox. And we say good morning to the YouTube streamers today. Travis says if he was still in Texas, which I believe Travis is now a world traveler of sorts. Every time he comments in, he's in some other international locale. He says if he were in Texas, he would definitely be headed to Houston. But the question is, how far away could he have been? He could have been 13 hours away, and he was still in Texas at the time. So excited for. Well, I don't know where Travis is this morning, but please let us know. I don't know what time it is for him. All right. So we are off and running on a Thursday. Excited for you guys to be with us today. Once again, I have an opinion coming up at 8:00 today. Feel free to get those opinions in, and we will open that up on the show. We got to talk basketball, and we really won't have much time to really, really dive into it. So I want to hear what Schaefer saw yesterday, what he took in from Houston, from the media availability, from shoot-arounds, from practice, things like that. So we'll get caught up with that when we come back. It is Happer and Schaefer on a Thursday, big day on 1620 The Zone. We welcome you back on this day of days. Connor Happer, Mike Schaefer, Joey Colbert with you on Happer and Schaefer, 1620 The Zone, and on 1620thezone.com. Mike Schaefer from Houston, Texas, covering Nebraska and Iowa. Think about that. Mike Schaefer in Houston, Texas, covering Nebraska and Iowa. But when you add on in the Sweet 16, things start to make a little bit more sense. That brings it home. Mike Schaefer got there yesterday. Took in a few of the things that were available to him, both in and out of the arena. Schaefer, I'm curious to hear about your day yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to get to Houston by about 9 a.m. and then we made a beeline to Toyota Center to get credentialed, and after that, made it back for Nebraska's media stuff, which is around the 1 o'clock hour. First time in the Toyota Center and sitting in their media workroom, and that's kind of where they have a bunch of Rockets, not jerseys, but like jersey placards up on the wall of the players that have been enshrined in their local Hall of Fame. So I'm sitting around before anything starts, and there's Clyde Drexler, and there's Hakeem Olajuwon, and there's Rudy Tomjanovich, and I'm pretty excited for the arena tomorrow. And so then players come out, and for me, the sort of my favorite angle from yesterday, it's one I wrote about on Husker Max. Nobody was really going to ask Bryce Sanford about the Iowa piece of things unless it was going to be a national person. And
yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Someone did, and in her defense, maybe she hadn't looked at the schedule, but she kind of phrased it like this was the first time that he was going to go back and play him. And what I've enjoyed about Bryce Sanford is that he kind of has this ability that I don't know if it's a self-deception or what, but he just completely acts like this Iowa thing is nonchalant for him. Like, there's no emotion on his face when he said it. There's no vocal inflection. It's just haven't thought about it, focused on us, that kind of thing. And so then she tries another angle where she's asking, "Oh, what's it going to be like to see your teammates?" And, or is it because there's different people across and it's not the same thing? And so he kind of relents and gives a small answer about relationship with some of the people still on the staff, and that there's still two guys over there. But the entire time, we know how intense this guy is when he plays.
Yeah.
And there's no part of me that doesn't believe that there's nothing Bryce Sanford wants more in this world than to have one of those tornado-like games and to do it to that specific team tonight.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I mean, because the last time, in the two times that we've seen this game so far this year, it wasn't I didn't feel like Price, had that look in his eye like he did in those first two games of the NCAA tournament. And part of it is I just think that's what happens when you get to the NCAA tournament, or that's what competitors do, and they really flip that switch on, and he knows that he's I think one thing that has definitely happened since then, even though the last Iowa game was just a couple weeks ago at this point, is that, Price has probably realized, hey man, you have to, we don't go where we want to go without you, being the absolute best version of yourself. And he's definitely become the alpha of this team over the last couple of weeks. I don't think there's any doubt about it. So that has sort of developed, and that has sort of changed. I think you're right, Schaefer. He would love nothing more than to do it. But I do wonder about the chemistry of, I've said the word chemistry a lot this week, but I do wonder. So we've seen this sort of reborn version of Bryce Sanford over the last couple games of the NCAA tournament, the laser eye. I just think he's, kind of going cyborg mode right now. I don't know if we saw that against Iowa in the meetings that they played each other this year. I don't know, how does that all sort of come together in whatever, cauldron, or what do they call those? The beakers. How does it come together in the beaker of tonight?
You are definitely talking to Mr. Science over here, because I would certainly know what that formula would spit out. But yeah, that's kind of the thing. I think he scored 15 and 13 points in those two games. We know in Iowa City it was a struggle. He was close to scoreless, if not scoreless, in the first half in Iowa City, and then he hit a couple shots early, and that kind of helped. But it still was a struggle for him in that game. And then the one at home at the end of the season, Nebraska's senior day, it felt like Nebraska tried to utilize him a little bit different early in that game. They had him post up inside a little. They moved him off with some of those spots. They had him going in different directions or ran different things for him. I would anticipate they've got some wrinkles to try to open stuff up again. As you said, everyone knows what's at stake, and so I fully expect that he's going to be locked in. Now, I don't know that he wasn't locked in the other ones. I think there was a genuine shell shock of an entire arena chanting, "F you" effectively at him in the way that Iowa City with that going on, and then the senior day kind of played out how it did. The thing is, for as locked in as he was against Vanderbilt, it was Nebraska's balance that made them so effective in that game. And so there's a world where maybe he's not Illinois, price Stanford going for 32 points or whatever, but can still be really big, hunting those big shots. I mean, that's the thing. You got to find that sort of maximize that formula where you have him hunting big shots, but you're not sort of overdoing it. You're not just throwing it up there to throw it up there. And so, because there's other effective players for Nebraska, or can be. And the thing about this game that's also fascinating is maybe this is a well duh comment. I don't know. These two teams feel different than the versions that met each other in Lincoln.
I agree.
And so you kind of, as much as it wants to be, okay, Nebraska won the last one, Cale Jacobson did this and someone did that. You throw it all out because it feels like Iowa has found a different level of internal toughness that it seemed like they even had before. And some other guys are starting to step up and shoot for them. And maybe Bennett Sturts is maybe taking a slight step back. And then over at Nebraska, it's like, hey, there's Jamarcus Lawrence just ripping the cords again. And Frager looks like he's playing with a little bit more confidence. And one of the things I saw yesterday, and it's just a shoot around, so you take really nothing from it. But, oh, man, when Rink Mass gets going, that dude hit like, I was counting, and then I just stopped because we were over like 13 or 14. He just starts pouring it in from outside. The shot looks really good right now. Rink Mass looks really good. He sounds like someone that is very confident about where his game is at right now.
The amount of times I've had to hear about Rink Mass making like 10 or more consecutive 3-pointers in an open shoot around yesterday is actually hilarious. It's very funny because so you sent me a picture yesterday and it was sort of poking fun at how Stan Van Gundy was sitting there and talking to Fred Hoiberg, and then I realized that there were some media people in the background of that shot, and so I immediately went to their social medias and I found their point of view of that same exact thing. It's
oh, make it go away. Horrifying.
I had to upload that.
Thank you, Joe. I
enjoyed it.
It's fantastic.
You didn't have to.
We also have Schaefer's version of that, seeing that as well, which is pretty good. No, but
I'll have to find it.
Schaefer, I think you're right. Like this is, if there's a thing that has changed for each side, Nebraska seems to have gotten more swagger, just a little bit more of their kind of edge. I think their kind of edge comes out in how much, kind of joy, I guess, they're playing with and
how they feed off of each other.
Yeah. And I think that the trickle down starts with Sanford there. So, to our point from before, and that's really where they've been their catalyst in the NCAA tournament. And Iowa has gone more down the road of just like, I don't know if it's angry, but it's certainly tough, and it's rough and tumble, and but what that also comes with is when you get the really dangerous team. And I think both teams are the most dangerous versions of themselves right now. Certainly Iowa is, but they've gotten tougher. They've started to win these little battles, possession by possession. But a thing that has created is that they've started to make some shots now too. And so if you have those things combined, they're just a really tough out. And I think both teams really are at the moment.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, we're talking about sort of what they look like offensively. both of these teams are still their best asset is their defense. It's what they can do defensively. It's how they can kind of lock you up, and in Iowa's case, really slow the game down and grind it out, and all of those things. And Nebraska, it's just a constant chasing you of everything you're doing. And so, it's we're going to spend a lot of time talking about where these teams are offensively and who's shooting better and who looks better and on that end of the court. And it's all going to come back down to the things that we know it is. And that was Hoiberg's point yesterday. It's like, hey, we can talk chess matches and wrinkles and all of these things. It's going to come down to Iowa is really good when it wants to be at offensive rebounding. We have to protect the glass. We have to protect the ball, and we've got to maximize our possessions because we know they're going to maximize theirs. And so, when he just sort of drilled it down on those things, and it's like, all right, yeah, that's basically what it is. These teams do know each other, and there might be a wrinkle here or two. And, they've got a guy who's shooting at a much better clip than he has been before. And you've got a couple guys that have maybe found themselves. Doesn't really matter. You still got to lock in defensively, and you have to protect the basketball.
What else did you see yesterday, Schaefer? I know there was some activity. Like, what's Houston like? I've never really spent a lot of time I haven't spent any time in downtown Houston. I stayed the night there once, and it was in the suburbs.
Yeah, and so basically, Houston just feels like it's an endless series of on and off ramps. Like, if you're trying to go anywhere, you're just going on a ramp and off a ramp, and it might be an interstate, it might be a highway, it might be a frontage road, and then you'll weave from one to the other. I made like they have like a system to get you through all of their different ramps that you can kind of undercut it if you want to get to the other side of the road. And it's like this massive U-turn that feels like you're going forever, where all you're doing is just shaping your car around just endless road structures. So I mean, I'm in the what they call the third ward. It's over by the Houston campus. We drove around campus yesterday, tried to go to a local sports bar over there, and there was some event going on. And we walk in, and Josh and I are in there, and two other guys went in, probably I'm guessing early 40s, and there was a bartender that was like maybe 50. Everybody else looked like they were 12, and it was I'm still in my 30s, and I felt aggressively old walking into this place. And it was packed, so we weren't going to find a table. We weren't going to be able.
So it's a college bar. That's what you're going for here.
Definitely a college bar, but it was just like I was unprepared for how many they had like some social function going on. Just a lot of guys in blue blazers. It was you lived in Lincoln. It's kind of like when the FFA would show up downtown, and all of the blue coat army would just be everywhere. Like, that's what this looked like, except it was college students because they were all drinking pints or whatever else. And I just felt so overwhelmed. We ended up just leaving and finding somewhere else to go.
You know what's funny? I don't have I wish I had a better idea of a stereotype so I could stereotype Houston college students, Houston University students. I just don't. I can't even come up with an image in my mind. I don't even know what that looks like.
We'll see if how early Tim Verghese gets up these days. We can shoot him a text. At one time he was looking at the University of Houston. I'm sure the University of Rice people would tell you the people that go to Houston are the ones that can't get into Rice. So maybe it's that's supposed to be the egg brain college of the two.
Okay. And then some good food and things like that. Last night this is good, by the way, keep doing this. A picture of a barbecue sandwich, which is absolutely fantastic. And then I know there's a deli that's going to be visited at some point today, it seems.
Yeah. And then Stibbs found a place that's called Rodeo Goat that just has like incredible looking chicken sandwiches. So that might be what we end up doing for lunch today, but I'll keep you informed on all the food happenings here.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I like to live vicariously through other people's food choices.
Just stay away from the California Pizza Kitchen.
Stay away from the California Pizza
I'll search
Kitchen.
and see if there's any near me.
Schaefer, it was funny yesterday. Severe was in, and he finally asked the question that we have been failing to follow up on for months now with Joey Colbert, which is, why do you hate California Pizza Kitchen so much? And we figured out that Joey had a bad experience, I think, one time with like a frozen, like a take-home version.
I said that when you guys asked
Yeah.
the previous time.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, I just taped that over the entirety of the brand and things like that. I don't imagine that you'll find yourself walking into an actual one, but Severe was like, I think it's good. I like it. I miss it. And that was a fun conversation to listen to.
He has bad taste.
So the thing about it for Joey, like, are you just gonna let the take home version dictate your entire thoughts on everything?
Yes, I will.
California Pizza
Yes, I
Kitchen
will.
do?
Joe, if we know one thing about Joey Schaefer,
If I have a bad experience, then I'm
It's
going to
done.
judge it based on I'm going to judge it based on that.
if we know one thing about Joey, he absolutely holds grudges. There's no doubt about that.
I currently have many grudges.
How many would you like to share any of your grudges?
We
or-
need I have a grudge. That's what we need. I have a grudge.
Well, apparently I have a grudge against Matt McMaster now because of stuff he said about me.
Okay, you actually do have a grudge against Matt McMaster, and I think Matt has a grudge against you.
And he's a Bears fan. I live rent free in his head for some reason.
Yeah.
Now the NBA, because I paid good money to watch my team play and I couldn't watch it yesterday.
But you're not going to stop watching the NBA now. You're
No,
not,
I'm not.
Not
I'm
really
not,
a grudge.
I'm not-
More of a grievance.
Yeah, that's
More of a grievance,
more of a
yeah.
grievance. So there's things that elevate to grudge, and then ultimately, I think that gets to, in California Pizza Kitchen's case, like just pure boycott. So,
Unadulterated hatred right there.
I'll be the first one to boycott California Pizza Kitchen in Omaha if they establish.
they come back.
If they come back.
All right. Well, Joey, good luck.
You'll see me there.
Good luck with the sponsorships. All right. It is Thursday on Happer and Schaefer. Plenty for Mike Schaefer. We'll hear from Josh Peterson coming up at 7:30. Brought to you by, once again, Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill. Today, the Zone Tailgate is at Oscar's at 168th and Center, or 173rd and Lakeside Hills Plaza. You can go say hi to John and Nick. And then, of course, Josh will be doing the show remotely from Houston, 2 to 5. And that will lead into our coverage, 1620 The Zone's coverage of the NCAA tournament on Westwood One this evening as well. And for our friends in Central Nebraska listening on the 1620 The Zone radio network, 97.7 The Zone listeners can join the tailgate party at Bandit Sports Bar in Grand Island starting at 3. Schaefer is in Houston. I am here. Joey's here holding grudges. We'll be back after this on 1620 The Zone. Welcome back. Connor Happer, Mike Schaefer, and Joey Colbert with you here on a Thursday. Big game tonight, Nebraska and Iowa in the Sweet 16. I'm excited for the game, Schaefer. I will admit, though, I've grown a bit conflicted this week. Not necessarily in who to root for or whatever. It's that I appreciate both teams' stories greatly, even though they meet at this point where, like, it's deep into the NCAA tournament. They're rivals. It is it's a blood feud as far as the schools are concerned. The people don't like each other. The fans don't like each other, whatever it might be. Also, I really love both of their trajectories. I love both of their stories. We talked about what Ben McCollum was building at Iowa a couple days ago before you left, Schaefer. And I keep getting evidence to me really enjoying Ben McCollum. So yesterday, he was, as many coaches are, they're asked about travel and just things that, I don't know, don't really matter that much. But then coaches oftentimes take the opportunity to say, yes, I am aggrieved. I have a grudge against travel and things of that nature, and one less day of rest, and complain about what they don't get compared to what the other team does get. Ben McCollum was asked in his media availability yesterday. He was asked about the challenges of playing late Sunday night against Florida. Remember, Nebraska played Saturday. Ben McCollum and Iowa played on Sunday, and then they travel back to Iowa City and then back out to Houston on Tuesday. Nebraska got an extra day with a little bit more prep time. Blah 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 blah. Here's what McCollum said. He says, I mean, probably the challenge is my director of basketball ops setting everything up, but this level is so bougie. It's like, I mean, we get back and I get a text that says, be here at this time. The plane will be there. You will drive right up to the plane. You will get on the plane and everything will be done for you. Your food will be there. All you have to do is bring your computer and scout. And then we get to the hotel and everything is perfectly set up, which is absolutely the case for every high major basketball team in the country. And then he was asked about, he continued to be asked about challenges and things like that. He says, so I guess for me, I don't think there's a lot of, he says, there's a lot more challenges than their challenges, talking about coaching at the JUCO level. It's just a day difference. So probably don't read into it. I've been at the Division II level for so long. I played in junior college. I mean, you make your bus trips and you're ready to play. If you're not ready to play for the Sweet 16, then you probably shouldn't be here. That's kind of my thought. And this obviously runs very, very, perpendicular to some of the other things that we've heard from coaches around this time of year.
The first comment, if you look at this on Twitter, like the tweet that you sent me, the first comment is, I'm pretty sure Mick Cronin held a press conference to complain about his travel one time.
Yep.
And, so it does run counter to that. And he is right. Like, you think about it, I understand why these questions get asked, but these teams play on different rests throughout the entire part of the season, like the regular season. You might have a game on Friday and turn around and play on Tuesday. Like, that's sort of how this works. That's sort of how this happens. So, yeah, I mean, I can imagine him just kind of scoffing at the concept of, anyone that's been around junior college operations know, and as a former junior college player, he would know, like, you're just thankful for anything you get. And so now you're at this high-level basketball program, and the way the NCAA does the tournament, everything is largely taken care of. You just have to be on their schedule, and you show up when they tell you to show up, and they'll have everything ready to go. And so, I think he definitely appreciates what he has in a way that maybe some coaches have stopped appreciating long ago. And maybe Ben McCollum will too. I kind of doubt it. I think he's someone who perpetually lives with an edge or perpetually lives with a chip. And those types of people never allow themselves to get comfortable or never allow themselves to forget where they came from. And so it makes him a pretty dangerous guy in a lot of ways, to be an opponent of. And he's going to be a fascinating college basketball conversation. Maybe not so much this carousel, but in future ones, if he continues to have the success he's having, other programs are going to look at it and be like, well, we can give him more NIL and we can give him this, we can give him that. And so it'll be interesting what Ben McCollum chooses to do.
He seems like, now I say this and I completely understand that he was at Drake for 1 year, but he does seem like a guy that would probably not leave his, what he has been quoted as saying his dream job at Iowa, at least this early. But there's no doubt about it. People are going to be coming after him over the years. I think his stock is obviously really high right now, but I also think he's going to continue to build Iowa. And I love coaches who say stuff like this, because oftentimes I get so frustrated with the conversation, whether it be during football season or basketball season, of like, oh, how much rest do you have and how much travel do you have and things like that. And I know how these teams operate. I know how good they have it. And all it takes is just a little bit of perspective. And there's no doubt. I'm not trying to minimize the fact that it's difficult, or it's more difficult to play on one shorter day rest than your opponent. Like that is absolutely true. There's no doubt about it. But there are so many systems in place if you're a well-run college basketball program, which every high major program is. And, there's so many systems in place to make it as easy as you could possibly make it on the players, on the coaches, on the staff. I mean, the amount of things that go into creating a system that works for your players and to make them, recovered and make sure everything runs efficiently. It's really good, but everybody's got it. And Iowa, is certainly one of those, and you get to see it operate firsthand, whether it be at Nebraska or Creighton or whatever it might be. And you're like, oh, okay, I could see why these guys, they get them to play their best every single night. They know how important it is and things like that. And still, sometimes that doesn't mean that you're going to be at your best. You're still going to be a little bit weary and tired or whatever it is after a long trip, and you just never know how that works. But I appreciate the coaches like Ben McCollum's perspective on all this stuff, because I get so annoyed by the conversation, especially during football season. Football coaches like to a man love complaining about this, whether it be 1 day shorter rest or longer travel or whatever it is. They cannot stop complaining about this. So this is everybody. I'm seriously not pointing fingers at any one coach. It's all of them. And you see coaches more and more at the on the basketball side who have stories like McCollum, who not exactly like McCollum, because his is quite the rise here recently, but coached at lower levels, junior college, Division II, Division III, came on up, and maybe we're at a low major job, and then a mid-major job, and then a high major job. And you just get that perspective. You get that perspective more often, where I feel like in football, you hear from these coaches who are just like, yeah, I played at Texas, and then I started at my GA job at North Carolina, and then I was an assistant at whatever, USC or something like that. And you're like, oh, okay, well, you kind of know how college football works from that side of things. And yeah, I assume, that perspective is a little bit different.
Yeah, it's one of the things that's just apparent, whether it's McCollum or Hoiberg, and some of it is Nebraska's never been in this spot. Iowa hasn't been here since '99. It's not an element of being happy to be here, but it's recognizing, like, at some point, what are we talking about? It's the Sweet 16. It doesn't matter if it's Iowa or Florida or Utah State or, whatever school you can imagine in your mind's eye. You're playing for the Sweet 16. You're playing for the Elite Eight. You're playing, like, this is the opportunity right in front of you. If you have 10 minutes less rest, if you have 5 days more rest, it doesn't matter. Like, what matters is the game that is about to happen, and you trying to do everything you possibly can to put yourself in position to get to that next round.
Yep, no doubt about it. And so I appreciated the perspective from Ben McCollum. I seriously, as he has become more of a central figure in college basketball over the last couple of weeks here, and certainly last year for what he did at Drake too. I've every time I've heard from him, I think he's the absolute real deal. And we talked about this a lot on Tuesday, Schaefer, but like, I think he's the absolute real deal. And that is nothing. That is not to say that they're going to beat Nebraska tonight or anything like that. For the record, I actually think Nebraska's going to win tonight. But like, I think Ben McCollum is the real deal. and he's going to have to be, reckoned with for like this Nebraska-Iowa thing is not going away anytime soon because they're going to be good, and I think Nebraska will continue to be arrow up as well.
Yeah, which is great, and you'll have this this data point to work off of it.
Yep. All right, we'll take a quick break here and come back. 7:00 hour. Plenty to come. Josh Peterson is going to join us from a different room in the house that Schaefer's in Houston, Texas, which is exciting. We have, should I click on this link? I have an opinion. So don't forget to get your opinions in. We will open up that bag coming up at 8:00 today. 402-951-1620. Tweet at @HappenSchafe. That's the easiest way to get your opinion in. BC, Alan Huss, Max Olson, plenty more basketball talk as we continue on. Happer and Schaefer rolls on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back. Just a minute shy of 7 o'clock here on Happer and Schaefer, 1620 The Zone, and on 1620thezone.com, the Zone Radio Network. Connor Happer, Mike Schaefer in Houston, and myself, Joey Colbert, right here in studio in Omaha. By the way, just to note this, so we could talk about him a little bit later on in the show, a little bit more in depth. There are other games tonight. The Sweet 16 proceedings begin at just a little after 6 with Texas and Purdue, and then Nebraska and Iowa starts at 6:30 in that first set of games. Then Arkansas, Arizona tonight, Houston, Illinois. Of course, 2 of those games will be in Houston, and the other 2 will be in San Jose this evening. And then tomorrow night, maybe a more star-studded day of the Sweet 16, but a good day of basketball, all things told. I'm excited for the big picture once again. Schaefer will be cut off from it a little bit in Houston, but he'll have his plate full down there tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot going on. I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to go to the team watch site, not the team watch site, the team send off, and then there's like another alumni event where there's like going to be a watch party, so you're probably going to have a bigger congregation of Nebraska fans at that point in time. But some of it is just trying to figure out the timing of everything, and making sure I'm giving myself enough time to get over to the arena and not just get stuck in traffic somewhere.
Well, yeah, you definitely don't want to do that, and you're liable to do that in Houston. It will happen from time to time. What, Schaefer? I mean, like as we zoom back on the week here a little bit, and I know it's been partway like euphoric, like Nebraska coming off of what happened in Oklahoma City last weekend, and I think because of how just momentous that was, not only to win the 2 games, but the fan migration and all those different things. There's almost been like, I almost don't even want to say that like this because I know it means more now, but like there's almost been sort of like a come down, just emotionally, I think, coming off of last weekend. And now it maybe has been a little bit difficult to ramp it back up. There is the Iowa of it all. I don't know, like what have the emotions been like, or that you've sort of observed this week with fans or even with the team?
Yeah, I mean, with fans, there's just 2 subsets of people. There's man, I'm more nervous about this game because it's Iowa, and then there's we are gonna lord this over Iowa forever. Like those are the 2 versions of people. It's and it's not that the first instant Nebraska necessarily is going to lose. It's just that they're playing out the scenario if Nebraska does not win. All they're ever going to hear about from Iowa fan is that the greatest basketball season in Nebraska history concluded with a loss to Iowa in the Sweet 16 to a number 9 seed, Iowa at that. And so, there's that element of it. And so I think there's that. I think there's a lot of people, and this is, I'd be curious, I'm sure texters or people who want to call in or whatever can comment on this too, StreamYard as well. The cost, like this event has become so pricey when you add in the travel and the ticket costs and the fact that you have to do all of this on like a short notice type thing, that it really doesn't allow people to be able to get there the way that they certainly did for Oklahoma City. And there's obviously world, events going on that make things more difficult too. But some of it is like, there's just like man, I really want to be there and I can't. And so I don't really know what to do with my time before I'm there because, last week people were showing up on Tuesday, showing up Wednesday morning in Oklahoma City, and you're just hanging out. It's like the longest tailgate imaginable for that 11:40 tip, which again, it started, we're going to sail by 11:40 here in a few hours, and Nebraska would have tipped off against Troy. The vibes of all of this is just different. Like this has much more of a big game in conference play away from home feel than it does like whatever we want to call Oklahoma City. I still don't really know how to characterize what that was last week. It was like an away football game in Colorado in some ways.
Yeah, and I think coming off of that, there's just a natural and sort of unavoidable like emotional drain. Now, at the same time, all the other fan bases are sort of dealing with it too. I imagine Iowa
This
is as
isn't an
well. Coming
exclusive
off of
Nebraska thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Iowa is too. I mean, they just beat a 1 seed, like the defending national champion. You don't think they're having to come off of a little bit of a high right now to prepare to play Nebraska. And for the record, we can get to this now because it's been a week of this, and I might have said it already. I'm sure I have. I certainly have been thinking it the entire week. The angle of I don't want to play Iowa because it's Iowa, and if we lose to Iowa, then that will be the worst day of my life, and they'll hang it over my head forever, like you just said, Schaefer, is just so like it's sad. I hate that has been one of the predominant thought processes from Nebraska fans this week. I can see that we're handshake memeing on this, but like it's so dumb, and honestly, it's sort of not ruined the week, but it has definitely put a black eye on this week for me, coming off of last weekend, for Nebraska basketball fans, once again, where it was so euphoric. And then you're immediately looking ahead. It's like, oh my God, here we go. We're going to roll into Iowa again. And they're going to do what they always do to us. And then I got to deal with my neighbor putting out his Iowa flag again. It's okay. Everything's going to be fine, guys. The neighbor is going to put out the Iowa flag, whether or not Iowa wins tonight in the basketball game. I promise you he will. He'll be saying, let's go Hawks in Memorial Stadium next Black Friday, whether you like it or not. And the same thing goes to you. So just like, forget about it. Okay. It's going to be okay.
As you were going on your monologue there, I got a text that said, not dumb, Connor.
I know there's a lot of people who feel this way, Schaefer. Like, I'm
with you. I view this as like, and part of it is if we're going to do the whole, because this comes from the context of Nebraska loses. But if we're going to do that, it's going to hurt no matter what. And you're just going to feel pain, like an intense pain, because the best season and the most fun that you've ever had as a Nebraska basketball fan comes to an end, and you won't get to wake up to the next day after whenever this happens. I don't think it's going to happen tonight either, for the record. I don't know if we're supposed to be giving out these very important picks this early in the show, but whenever that happens, it's going to hurt. Like, that's what, when you think about the teams that you've really connected with over your time of being a sports fan, it's the element of you just love watching them play. And you also know that they're going to come back next year, and Nebraska is going to be good and all of this, but it's not going to be the same team. You're not going to get to see Rink Mass play for Nebraska again. You're not going to get to see Jamarcus Lawrence play for Nebraska again. You're not going to see Sam Hoiberg play for Nebraska again. That's where more of the pain, I think, ultimately will come from. The loss to a rival stings. There's no doubt about it. And being bounced out of a postseason format by a rival, it only adds to the context of the rivalry. These people also don't spend enough time thinking about the other way. If you win, you've just punched your ticket to the Elite Eight. You are Joey's shirt right now. That should be the focus. You get to be one of the last 8 teams playing. You're playing for a regional title. You have the opportunity. There is a world where on Saturday night, Berkay is wearing the net around his neck, and Nebraska is a Final Four team.
With Herbie's hat.
Like this, let's go there mentally. And this isn't me. Like, anyone that has listened to me talk about sports knows that I vacillate between extreme optimism and just, the desolation of never seeing my sports teams win in big moments. And so, like, I get it. Like, I get that there's all of these thoughts that go on inside your brain. But the reason that it's Iowa is that they knocked off Florida, who, in my mind, and I think your mind too, Connor, a better team, and so this gives Nebraska, I think, a better opportunity. I think they match up great with Iowa. I don't know how they would have matched up with Florida. I think there's things that would have went well and things that you would have been concerned about. But ultimately, Nebraska is sitting here with the opportunity to go to the Elite Eight. And in their way is Iowa. And they can beat them because you've seen them do it. And you're going to see them do it again on Thursday night. and you are going to hold that close to your heart on the way to the Elite Eight.
How excited do you think Nebraska was when, and I don't know, maybe this was a question yesterday that was covered in media or over the last 4 days, Schaefer, since it's happened, but like, how excited do you think Bryce Sanford or Rick Mast or Berkey was when Iowa won on Saturday night? Not to be happy for Iowa, but to say, oh my God, we are in the Sweet 16. We're, first of all, I mean, like, you know, the seeds are impossible to ignore. We're looking at a 9 seed and we're a 4 with a chance to go to the Elite Eight. I think that's big. But we're playing a team that we know we can beat because we literally have beat them before, and it was literally 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
And we have familiarity with them in general, you know, so and they have to deal with all the same things as it pertains to us as well. This team in Nebraska is confident in themselves, and just oftentimes you just don't see that reflected in the Nebraska fan base. Now, I won't say that with everything, because we saw how bloodthirsty the Nebraska fans were in Oklahoma City last weekend. There was nobody could tell any Nebraska fan jumping in the canal that they weren't going to the Sweet 16 last weekend, because they knew it, right? They thought they were going, and they like manifested it, and they knew it. But now that Iowa is the team that is next up, the chemistry has changed within the fan base, but I don't think it's changed inside that locker room. In fact, I think, you even get a chance to double and triple down on your confidence here.
Do they not have the perfect coach for this exact scenario? I mean, they've spent all season, if you've watched any of these cinematic recaps, they spent all season where, and Hoiberg told a reporter this yesterday who sort of asked along the similar lines, are you satisfied? And the answer is always no, because Fred makes them sort of live in the moment, consider the moment, move to the next moment. And he's also the kind of guy, as you know, as you've shown me on your phone during a break earlier this week, Fred can put some things together to get you emotionally invested in what's about to happen. So I think almost more than anything, this team saw that Iowa-Florida game and thought, yeah, we'll take Iowa. We'll take our chances with Iowa. Congrats to you. Congrats on getting a great win against Florida, out-toughing that team, surviving the physical challenge. We're right here waiting for you. I don't know if they were cheering for it. I don't know if they were wanting it. I don't know if they were welcoming it. Actually, let me rephrase that. I think they're very much welcoming it. I think
yes, I agree completely.
You wouldn't get it from what they said yesterday, because all of them are going to play it down, because that's how they are taught, and that's sort of the mind of what it is. But it's like the blank expression from Bryce Sanford. I don't believe it. I think inside they want this, and I know over there Iowa wants it too. I don't know that there's any animosity necessarily between the basketball programs, just like the individuals that actually comprise them. But I certainly think they feed off of the fact that these teams aren't supposed to like each other, and they want to go win these games. And we saw what Iowa City was. I mean, we're talking about environments in Oklahoma City. You want bloodlust. If you were a Nebraska basketball fan and you walked into Iowa City, if you were involved in that program and you walked into Iowa City, if you were the Sanfords and you're sitting in Iowa City where your older son was an all Big Ten player and the sixth man of the year as a sophomore, and, it's sort of well loved there, but your younger son is having vulgarities that you just screamed at him because he had the audacity to leave when the coach was fired that he came to play for, and there was a chance to go somewhere else. Like, yeah, I mean, I think that they are very much welcoming this opportunity with open arms.
Think about this too. Going into this game that it is going to, in order to win it, you're going to have to win a knockdown drag out. Like, you're going to have to win a street fight. You're going to have to win every single possession, locked in for all of it. There's no lapses in judgment. There's no, you just got to be laser focused the entire game. And then I think about, that not that wouldn't be the case with Florida. It would have been a tremendous challenge to play and beat Florida. But we saw in the Iowa-Florida game for the first, for a long time in that game, it just felt like Florida was, sort of going through the motions a little bit. And it's easy to undershoot Iowa just because of how they look and the way they play and things like that. And then all of a sudden, they looked up at the clock and the score, and there was 10 minutes left in the game, and they were down. They were like, "Oh my God, we're getting drugged into a brawl here. We better wake up." And it was too late. And so, Nebraska knows going into this what you're getting from the other side is going to be tense and focused and locked in, just like you are. And not that there's an advantage necessarily to that, but what you're getting, not only from a familiarity standpoint, but like, you got to be on it right away. There is no like, oh, they're gonna maybe we'll catch them sleeping for the first 10 minutes of the game because they don't see us coming. I don't know. Like, I think that's something. That's how Iowa advanced. And that's not necessarily how Nebraska advanced. But Iowa's had to take down a big opponent to get where they're going. I think there's something in there, just as far as you know what you're getting from an intensity level across on that other side of the bench.
Yeah, and if you're Nebraska, you look at it and we beat the team that had last beat Florida before Iowa did. So, like you're just, you can't get to this point without beating somebody, and you certainly can't get to the Elite Eight without beating somebody. And that's what it all is. And it's going to be an intense game. I think how they manage their emotions is going to be a big part of it. If you're drawing up the perfect start for Nebraska, it probably includes whether it's Sanford or Rink Mass, one of those two making an early 3-pointer. I think Nebraska is one of those teams that when they see the ball go through the hoop early, it makes everybody else kind of fall into a comfort level that comfort level, maybe not the word, a confidence that you kind of have. Like I think the start of this game will look a little bit, maybe not what Troy did from the 3-point shooting for Iowa, but a little bit like the Troy game where it took Nebraska a few beats to kind of get into it, to get some of the nerves out. And then, I don't know that the rest of the game is going to play out like Troy did, but it was when Sanford hit those 2 threes that you felt like Nebraska's level of confidence just kind of swelled up, and it's like, it's not happening for Troy today, and they took over. Again, don't think Nebraska can do that exact thing to Iowa, but I think a lot of, for them to get off to a quick start. We talk about that. And Iowa's done a pretty good job of not allowing that to happen in these games. They forced Nebraska to have to play through some things, certainly in Iowa City, but again in Lincoln. And then Nebraska did have that big lead. I mean, and part of it is Nebraska was on the precipice of blowing the doors off of Iowa in Lincoln. And you got to give a lot of credit to the Hawkeyes for how they found something to just start going inside and scoring in Lincoln too, to continue to make that a game.
Yeah, Schaefer, you asked earlier, or we talked about it briefly. Like, I think these teams are, quite a lot different from when they played a few weeks ago, and certainly quite a lot different from when they played in Iowa City longer ago than that now. And it's funny, I was thinking about the game and the conversations leading up to both of those games. And I remember we talked about, I mean, they're so different stylistically, they're so different in what they're trying to, sort of accomplish, and certainly the pace of it, although Nebraska, it's not like they're getting up and down the floor out in transition and stuff like that. But Iowa's really, really, really slow and deliberate and trying to create a good shot and things like that. I would have said, and I did say, you have to play the game on your terms. Whichever side you are, you have to play the game on your terms. Now I'm not so sure. Like, I think Schaefer, I think Iowa can win a Nebraska game, and I think Nebraska can win an Iowa game. And that is a huge compliment to both sides, given what we've seen from them over the last couple of weeks. Like, I think Nebraska has proven that they could win the gritty, possession, like where you have to sort of create a little bit because of the emergence of Sanford and what you could do off of him. And I think Iowa, can win they have been so efficient, although slow. They have been so efficient offensively in their NCAA tournament run. It's a different kind of version of this team. They're getting excellent contributions from guys who aren't named Bennett Sturts. And like that, it really, really is gelling. I think, I don't know. It's always a keys to the game. Like, oh, I play on your terms, whatever. I'm not so sure that Nebraska can't win an Iowa game, and I'm not so sure that Iowa can't win a Nebraska game.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then it becomes who does the best job of exerting what they're the best at. In the case of Nebraska's defense, can you turn Iowa over? can you get, forced possessions to end because they're making bad passes and, they're making dumb decisions? And if it's Iowa, can you just get Nebraska out of rhythm offensively and keep them out of rhythm? And so I think a lot of this comes down to, can Nebraska handle Iowa's pressure with their guards? Are they going to protect the basketball? We saw when things started to flip against Vanderbilt, and Tyler Tanner, besides the offensive end, was picking pockets out at half court and getting transition baskets and all of these things. I mean, I can't remember what the exact stat was in Iowa City, but they had the transition points and they scored off of turnovers. And that seems to be where Nebraska can put itself in a big hole, is when it does turnover. Teams seem to get points off of it pretty easily. And that doesn't allow your defense, which is the best part of this team, to really flex itself. And so, I mean, regardless of what style it is, Nebraska's got to be able to protect the basketball. There's no question about that.
Absolutely. No doubt. Key number one, I think it has been for a while for Nebraska. By the way, Iowa, in case you need a refresher, one of the more disruptive defenses in the country, fifth in the country in dead ball turnovers, 78th in the country in steal rate. So, yeah, they have an opportunity to create extra possessions for themselves and then continue to just kind of choke that thing out a little bit. All right. We'll take a break here. More from Houston. Double your Houston. We'll have Josh Peterson coming up on the other side, presented by Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill. Once again, you can check out the tailgate this afternoon at Oscar's at 168th and Center-ish. So go down there and check that out as we'll get you ready for Nebraska and Iowa tonight. Josh is going to join us. We'll get his thoughts on what occurred yesterday and what is about to occur tonight when we return on 1620 The Zone. But first, a word from my friends at Underdog Fantasy, where the tournament is back and the upsets will continue on. Yes, even into this round. Underdog is the place to get in on all the action. You can make picks and win money right now in Nebraska. As we know at this point, Underdog is so easy to play on. It just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. You get those picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. I mean, think about this. I'm going to pull open the Underdog app right now, and you could just look across the board in all of the things that are going on, whether it be tonight in basketball or whether it be tomorrow, this weekend, individual. How about this? Let's just go here. Bennett Sturts, higher or lower than 19.5 points. That is one of the options for you tonight. Higher or lower. You select that, and you have a chance to win some money. Download the app today. Use promo code HAPPER1620 to score $50 in bonus entries. When you play your first $5, promo code HAPPER1620 Underdog. Make picks. Win money. Must be 19 plus at present. Nebraska. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com for details. Consider with your play call 1-800-MY-RESET or visit ncpgambling.org. All right, big day here and big day in Houston, Texas. That is now where two people on this show, two people that you might be seeing on your screen right now, if you're watching along with us on YouTube, are located. In fact, they're in the same house, just separated by that door you see. And Mike Schaefer's pointing at a door clearly, but you can't see said door. Josh Peterson joins, courtesy of Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill. Once again, check out the tailgate today at Oscar's starting at 2 with unsportsmanlike conduct. Josh, good morning. How are you? Oh, now we can't hear Josh. Josh is realizing that he's done something wrong. Oh, well, maybe he's confused now. Schaefer, can
Just say something, Schaefer.
Can you talk, Schaefer?
Do you want me to go to Josh's room and help him get set up over here?
Uh-oh. Josh is very confused as to what might be. There he is.
He's back.
Maybe he had a tab muted or something like that.
I hate it, Schaefer and Happer. Hello. I was complimenting your show, by the way. When I make a mistake that is actually my fault, I made a mistake that is actually my fault. I own up to it, though. Famously, I'm not going to be furiously tweeting like Jack Mitchell from an airplane yesterday. I'm not going to.
Hold on, I'm curious. What mistake could you make that isn't your fault? Is there any mistakes that aren't your fault?
Excellent question. Sometimes you do stuff and it is not your fault, but you have to fall on the sword. But in this case, I had my audio settings connected to a machine that is literally not in the room with me instead of the machine that is right next to me. Because I'm still getting used to this. I forgot the name is different than the name of the other machine. But hello, I'm great. How are you guys? I got my nice cup of coffee.
Did you hear Schaefer
Cup of Joe, if you would,
when the show started this morning?
No, I have not. Well, how did that go?
No, I nothing at all. I just want to know if you heard him through the walls.
Oh, no, I'm a little worried about our friend Stibbs in here because I turned off the fan noise on my phone, and it is very echoey and very loud. And now certainly I am talking, and so it's getting even a little bit louder. So when I went to the bathroom this morning at like 6:30, I think I could hear Schaefer. But otherwise, it's not too bad when I have the noise on my fan or on my phone. So that's good.
You guys have a spacious situation going on over there. This looks like a pretty good digs.
It has been good. You got it's like one of those row house style things where you get the 3 bedrooms upstairs. They're all pretty good size. We put Stibbs in the middle between us. Everybody's got their own bathroom, which is always a great situation for all. And there's plenty of room in this room, if you would. But it's worked out great. Props to Josh or Jack Mitchell, whoever found it. I don't know who deserves the credit. Josh, that's him. So props to Josh. This worked out really well. There was no arguing over who got what room because they're all quite large. You know, you've gone on those trips with people for Airbnbs, and it's like, oh man, I don't want to get stuck with this room and the twin bed and the bunk beds or whatever it is.
Couch bed.
None of that here. Yeah, I would not want to sleep on the couch here. I will make a point of saying that.
There was a big
couch.
Two things, Happer. The couch is small. Wish it was a little bigger. Miss the Star Wars couch. Internet also not the best. I hope the show has been going well for you over the previous 90 minutes. Has it been good? Okay, that's good. That's the other thing that's kind of annoying. I uploaded a video to YouTube last night, and it took probably 2 hours. So that's the kind of stuff we're talking about.
Well, to be fair to the internet, you did try to upload like a several hour long video, right? I mean, that was how long your show was. I tuned in to the I-80 Club when you guys were all sitting on the couch last night, and it was in like its second hour and beyond of what you guys were doing.
Two things. One, we only went on for 90 minutes, so a short show for us when sitting on a couch. We did 3 hours.
90 minutes is
Saturday.
not a short show, no matter what.
Interesting. You do a 4-hour show every day, Schaefer. That's quite interesting that you say
for
something
a podcast.
Like
90 minutes is not a short show.
Most popular podcast in the world does like 4-hour episodes on aliens and vaccines. So what do you know, Schaefer? The other thing,
nothing about aliens and vaccines.
So the other thing, though, Happer, is that wasn't the problem. It was trying to upload a 35-minute episode that was already recorded and self-contained. That's the one that took 2 hours to upload. So not the best, but we're making do. This is way better than it was during the Grum yesterday, so that's nice.
Yeah, so far so good. All right, Josh, let's get to some basketball stuff or some Houston stuff. Like, as you guys got the chance to sort of cover the grounds yesterday and like listen to players talk and coaches talk and things like that. Was there anything really that stood out? I don't know how many team practices you saw or how many coaches that you listened to talk yesterday, but really I'm talking about the whole, all the 4 teams there. Was there anything that sort of stood out to you about any sort of demeanors and attitudes and mindsets, things like that?
I'm guessing that this has come up on your show today, given that I talked about it with Schaefer multiple times, but I really enjoyed the Price Sanford question and answer about, first of all, how did the guy ask at Schaefer, like, yeah, you're playing Iowa? And he's like, yeah, we've already played them a couple of times. This isn't the first time that we played Iowa this season. So like that, but mainly his approach, because if there was ever a player, Hap, to take something very personally, this is the guy. This is the epitome of the MJ meme, and I took that personally, but he has a valid reason. Played for him, brother played for him, returns home. They serenade him with countless F-bombs over the course of a couple hours. They play him really physical. He has, I don't know if it was his worst game of the year, but certainly the most frustrating game of the year to that point in time. And so how he answered that question, like that whole team, and this was something we talked about a little bit last night, that whole team can take that first loss personally. And I know that they have played them since then and they won that game, even though they were up, big and it had to go to overtime. But how do you apply that to this one now when it is the most important game of both of your seasons? The winner moves on to the Elite Eight. Nebraska's never been that far. The loser season is done and it comes at the hands of their arch rival. So just how he talked about it, it made me wonder, what are they saying behind the scenes about this game? What are both teams saying behind the scenes? Like, I wonder if Iowa goes into this one like I feel like they always do against Nebraska in any sport of like, yeah, they're going to wilt, they're going to fall apart, we're going to take care of them. And then on the other side, how is Nebraska approaching this team that has played them very tough? And I think the 1-1 record is probably the right record for the 2 games. Some people would say maybe Nebraska should be 2-0, but I think that that's the correct record. And so I wonder what everybody is kind of saying behind the scenes about this one right now.
Josh, you were in Oklahoma City. You were at those games. You watched that. What's the most transferable thing you thought you saw from how Nebraska played in Oklahoma City that you think will show up again when we see them tip off here in Houston?
I think that we can see more of Rink Mass playing like he has recently. I thought that how he was able to anticipate and crash the boards, I thought was, what is it, the best of the whole season? Certainly the best in like a biggest game in a while. And so I think that can be something that happens or that has to happen at the very least. I think, if you're starting to power rank the various players that need to have a really good night, like you can get by with certain players not performing at their best as long as certain other players, pick up the slack. I think a big game from Price would be the most valuable of all of them. But I think that a big game from Rink Mast would be second most valuable. And I absolutely think that he can do that. I loved watching him play last week. I thought that he made some exquisite plays, especially down the stretch, getting those rebounds and such. So I think he would be the guy that I'm wondering about. But also, Schaefer, and this is less an individual and more just a team thing, the way in which they were jumping the lanes again, like that's something that we've been talking about all year long. When they do the various kill shot runs, it is always because the defense is getting at least a steal or 2 in the midst of that stretch. And when they got they had that quick 9-0 run at one point in time in the first game last week, it was always because of turnovers. It was always because they were able to take away the opposition.
Josh, Nebraska, defensively has been really, really good in this tournament so far, and I think kicked it up. They obviously been good all year. They're one of the top defenses in the country, just from the efficiency standpoint, a top 10 defense. And Iowa, you might not think much about them on offense, but they've been so dang efficient over the last couple games, just at their pace and what they do. What's the, we do the tail of the tape oftentimes in football, like offense, defense, special teams, who has the advantage where. Is there any discernible advantage, offense, defense wise on either side in this game as you match the sides up in the half court?
I don't think so. This is such a boring, horrible answer, so I apologize for it. But, doesn't this game come down to who can just knock in those shots, Because, the defense is going to be really, really good, I think, on both sides. We saw that at various points. certainly the first matchup, the rock fight in Iowa City. But remember, I don't know, I guess I remember this because I'm a weirdo freak. But after the first media timeout, Connor Onion and Nick Baugh, who were on the call, like they were like, well, what did anybody else expect? Points? Because it was what, like 5-2 or something like that.
Right.
So we saw the defense really pick up from both sides in each of the matchups. And then Nebraska's offense really started figuring things out against the Hawkeyes. So I think that this is a game where both of those teams are able to play that type of defense. I would say this, and Happer, I imagine you'll be talking about this a lot ahead of tomorrow's game between St. John's and Duke. How are the officials calling this game? If they allow St. John's tomorrow to be super physical and to get all up in the Blue Devils, like that is going to very much benefit them. I would say something similar. We've all had kind of our eyes on Price and how he moves. It's so fun being in the building. This is old hat for you guys. You guys go to basketball games all the time, but I haven't really been to a whole lot this season. And just watching Price's off-ball movement is so fun. And you often see he is, allowed to roam free. He's not allowed to roam free, and he's not allowed to roam free, but they called a foul on it. So how that type of stuff is officiated, I think very much tells the story. I mean, that game, kind of grinded to a halt a little bit, at least for Nebraska's offense at the start of the second half. And, of course, against Vandy, and they got all those fouls. But then over the last, 8 minutes, they had 0. They got to 9 fouls so fast, and you thought, wow, this is just going to be free throws for the rest of the game. And then Nebraska never fouled again. And so how this game is called, I think is going to be one part of the story, but I certainly think that the defenses are going to be exquisite in this matchup tonight.
Big part of the first game was what Bennett Sturts was able to do to kind of propel offense for Iowa in a game where they only scored, 57, and he had 22. He didn't play, I shouldn't even say he didn't play as well. He wasn't as effective in the second game. And now he's coming off of a game where he went 0 for 9 for 3 against Florida. He didn't play particularly well in that contest. What do you kind of make of where Bennett Sturts is at after a year where, famously, that guy plays every minute of every game? And he's a huge piece of what Iowa does, but they won without his best version against Florida. What do you think it looks like with Bennett Sturts round 3 for Nebraska?
I think that's the scariest part, Schaefer, is that they did win without his best version, and they did it against the defending champs, who was playing some really good basketball. The loss to Vandy in the SEC tournament not included, right? And so there's that part of it. I think the other part, we had Gary Dolphin on Sportsmanlike Conduct yesterday, and I asked him a question, and he was like, yeah, he was basically asked that same question, in the press conference today. So, is he pressing, I guess is my question. Is he going to be pressing in this matchup?
He looked like it in the Florida game.
Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, some of the shots that he is taking right now, it's not just like, oh, yeah, he can't get going. Shoot, though. He'll figure it out. It's like, yikes, that's a guy who is trying to shoot himself out of a slump. And so can that slump continue? I don't know if they can survive another game. Like, it's one thing to do it in the first round. Again, mad props to them for being able to do it against Florida. A third time in a row, like, can they do that a third time in a row? That seems like quite the tall task. And so I want to see, to go back to how teams are playing defense, how Nebraska is defending him early, but also be like, what is Iowa trying to get from him? And then what is he trying to get from himself? Like, going back to that forced conversation. That was the thing. I mean, man, you tell somebody, hey, this is what Sturts is going to do against Florida, and you give them the numbers, you're like, oh my gosh, did they lose by 20? Nope, they won the game, and they're moving on to the Sweet 16. It's why you continue to be so impressed just by this team in general, and every ounce of will and performance that they're getting out of all of the players, because he is that dude, and yet he wasn't that dude, and they still beat the defending national champions.
Okay, Josh, we'll let you continue to enjoy your morning, and we appreciate it. Once again, thanks to Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill for helping the guys with travel this week and all those different things. And once again, the tailgate coming up this afternoon. Anything special coming up on the show today?
So we're sadly off at 5, so that will be a huge bummer. We are talking to Robin, which I was worried about. When you get to a game day, and especially Robin joins us at 3:30, and the tip is a few hours later, wondering what was going on there. So we're going to have Robin. I believe Nick is efforting a national college basketball guest to preview the entirety of the Sweet 16, but I imagine that we will be giving our picks for the game, and I don't know, John and Nick, will they get heckled out at Oscars? The Husker watch party with the Iowa guy and the Jay guy. I mean, it's absolutely perfect. So I hope not to see anybody throw something at them, but maybe some verbal bars, to my colleagues and co-host there at Oscars. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, Josh, great stuff as always. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
That is Josh Peterson. Once again, Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is the place to be this afternoon for unsportsmanlike conduct starting at 2:00. Josh, jump back in, back out. Hey, the internet's holding up just fine. We like it. By the way, Theo wrote in. He says, Happer's babysitting the electronics in Omaha to keep the show alive. That's right. Me and Joey are hanging in there. We're just, keep making sure everything's straight. Schaefer will pay us back at some point when I go to Vegas next week, and that'll be good. And we'll have to deal with hotel internet and things of that nature, and also potentially me waking up and doing the show at 4:00 in the morning. So there'll be a whole new set of circumstances. But today is the day in Houston. Let's take a break. Joey's got the headlines, and we'll round at the 7:00 hour. By the way, one more call or multiple more calls here. I have an opinion coming up at 8:00. Get those opinions.
Get those opinions
at Happer and Schaefer on the Liquid Trucking Zone Twitter feed. Back after this on 1620 The Zone. I got a couple minutes for the headlines here before we get to I have an opinion. We have a few opinions in. We would appreciate some more at Happen Schaefer. You could text them in 402-951-1620. We'll open that up in just about 10 minutes. Joey, what are we cooking today?
Okay, the first headline: vaping squirrels spark warnings from experts.
Vaping squirrels. Okay, interesting. Schaefer, any thoughts off the bat?
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen a squirrel vape, so I kind of want to know the mechanics of it. I like the word sparks doing some work in there too, with the headline. So pretty good. We'll see what 2 is.
Okay, the second one is man with world's strongest nipples uses piercings to pull weight of 2 grand pianos.
Okay. This is a decision. I still like the vaping squirrels story, but I am at least obviously, intrigued in the grand pianos being drug along by a guy's nipples.
Can I admit something?
Yes.
I have already heard the nipples story. This is the first time this has ever happened. But it made an appearance on another one of our shows this week, and they were discussing the nickname of the man with the nipples, and then Matt had thoughts on the man and all of that. So I'm aware of it. I'm not saying that there's different listeners across shows. So if we're being honest, the nipple story is probably the more interesting of the 2.
Well, let's go to the vaping then, because we don't want to do any repeats
or
anything like that. I like the vaping story anyway. So apparently there are some a pack of squirrels or a squirrel vaping on camera at a London park. There's videos and photos that have captured other incidents as well of squirrels handling, chewing on, or even buying discarded vape devices in the United States and in Britain.
Okay, how does a squirrel buy a discarded vape device?
I'm not sure. We're going to continue on. Craig Shuttleworth, the red squirrel expert at Bangor University, said the flavored liquid is likely what captured the squirrel's attention. Quote, it would be reasonable to assume that a vape would be more attractive than a normal tobacco product that's not fruity. You don't want animals ingesting nicotine. They don't encounter nicotine in the wild. So like many chemicals, it's something that you don't want them exposed to. But it does sound funny, I suppose. Yes, I know that eating a vape isn't a part of their natural diet. This story does not give me enough information on the squirrels and their habits as far as the vaping is concerned.
Did it give you video or photos of the vaping, or are we just expected to create this with our mind?
There is a photo, but this was from 2023.
Oh, well, why are they doing an article on it now?
That's a good question. I clicked on the link from the Telegraph, but you have to pay a subscription to actually read the whole thing.
Concern for animal welfare groups, things like that going on. I'm just interested in the terminology that they use of the squirrels were interested in buying the vapes. I guess that's the one that really threw me for a loop there.
How many nuts or acorns are needed to buy a cartridge or a vape pen,
Well, Schaefer, it wouldn't surprise me if the squirrel found the vape and drank the vape juice on the sidewalk or whatever it was, and then got interested in more vaping. I mean, it is addictive after all, especially for a tiny baby animal like that. So I don't know what they're using as collateral as far as to get more vapes. I imagine they do it underground, like not literally underground, but like, it's like a behind the counter purchase where they go up to a person with a vape and they, maybe nudge a little acorn their direction, or maybe even for like a pet or something like that. But yeah, apparently the squirrels are now acquiring the vapes.
I do love the fact that it plays into this stereotype of Europe and specifically London, that this is where it's happening, that the vaping squirrels originated out of London. It feels like that's the sort of place where, this would be most possible.
Yeah, indeed. They like that the squirrels are interested in what the humans are interested in over there. That's for sure. All right. Those are the headlines. Get your opinions in. I have an opinion. Last call at Happen Schaefer. Of course, text in 42951-1620. We're back with I Have an Opinion coming up next on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back. 8 o'clock here on Happer and Schaefer on 1620 The Zone Radio Network. 1620thezone.com. Connor Happer, Mike Schaefer in Houston, Texas. Joey Colbert as well. And it's time for I Have an Opinion. I think we either forgot or were too caught up in talking about Nebraska ball last. No, we just didn't do it because we had to squeeze an entire show. The basketball game started at 11, whatever. There was a fill-in, and we just skipped over it. So never again. We are never skipping I Have an Opinion again. I love when you have opinions, and I love this segment so much. We're never.
I love having opinions.
Joey definitely loves having opinions. That much is for sure. All right, so let's do it. Let's get to your guys's here. Once again, you can continue to get in touch with the show, 402-951-1620. I got some emails. I got some texts here. Let's go to the text first. Here from the 402. I have an opinion. This day 3 years ago was the worst day of all time. Hashtag it wasn't a foul. Hashtag Lee Castle. Bleep Lee Castle.
Today's the anniversary?
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
Every single day.
And I'm wearing the shirt.
I'm
wearing the shirt.
You were wearing a shirt to commemorate the fact that they played in that game and it ended poorly for them.
It did. Shafe, you got thoughts?
I am having some incredible sound stuff going on where it sounds like you guys are Alvin and the Chipmunks, and I have no idea what's happening here. Like it is insane.
No.
Everything is 10 times funnier than my face is reacting to because I have no idea if this is a bit. I have no idea what is happening here. Like it's like you're Alvin and Joey is Theodore. And I don't know if I'm Simon or what's going on here, but it sounds incredible.
While
the Chipmunks.
While it would be an incredible prank if we just for one segment just raised our voice like 10 pitches up, that would be funny. That is not happening right now.
No.
Okay. I think I'm gonna have to switch out headphones or check what's going on with the audio. I'll get through this segment, but it is amazing right now. I cannot explain to you how funny this is.
All right, incredible. Travis falls up on that opinion. He says, I have an opinion. It was a clear and present foul. Well, some people are saying that. Here's Bill on the text line. I have an opinion. There must be an underground hidden speed governor device that makes everyone who is driving west on Maple between 132nd and 168th drive 32 miles per hour. Dave, this is an incredible, or Bill, I'm sorry. This is an incredible opinion. This is a correct opinion, and I will adopt this opinion completely. I continually, daily, do not understand what the people on Maple Street are doing. The speed limit is,
It's 45.
I've done this rant a million times already. So yeah, go ahead, just pre-gong me. So the speed limit is 45 miles per hour, which is already too low. It's already too low. Then there are so many stoplights because there has been, there's obviously the ones at, 120th. Schaefer's just going to bail out, I think, at this point. The 120th, 132nd, 144th, 156th, 168, 180, whatever. There's obviously those big stoplights. I get it. Those aren't always going to match up for you. But there are now, at this point in the development of West Omaha, there has now been like 17 additional stoplights in between those stoplights. So that throws things off completely. But at the same time, nobody goes fast enough.
Well, and the road's treated like a highway. It's set up as a highway from when they first constructed
it is
the
literally
road.
A highway. Yeah, it's Highway 64. And so, like, everybody, for some reason, decides to go 28 miles per hour, 32 miles per hour, 38 miles per hour. And I'll even, like, this will even happen while there's no one in front of you. I don't get it. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me, but it is a very, very, very true opinion. Thank you for sending
very realistic
that opinion, Bill. Pedro writes in. He says, hi, guys. I have an opinion. Hearing one of your favorite fast songs on the elevator or in a store and you not being able to sing or move around is the hardest thing ever. What do you think about that, Joey? Are you a sing-along guy?
The only time I sing is when I drive, and I kind of incorporate my road rage into the singing.
You do have some significant road rage.
Yes, I do. I am irritated with terrible drivers. As Michael Severe said yesterday, there's people that just don't know how to drive. They don't know how to yield, and they don't know how to operate in a roundabout, especially the single lanes. If you're in the circle, you have the right of way. If you're outside of the circle, there's a yield sign. You just stay put if there's someone in the circle. But if there's no one in there, you are free to go.
Right. It's right. That is correct. Yeah, go ahead. So when you go into a store, and you hear a really good song, do you hum along? Do you sing along? Do you just ignore it completely?
Depends on the song. Kind of depends on what's playing. If it's catchy, if it's something I like.
Hey, I'm not afraid to bounce around a little bit in the store if a song comes on that I like. No, you're not going to full out like karaoke sing it like you would in your car. But Pedro, I agree. It's a very difficult thing to deal with. I mean, you're trying to, it's your favorite song. What are you supposed to do? Here's a text from the 712. Now, coincidentally, this text hails from the state of Iowa, and it says, "I have an opinion, bleep Iowa." That is their opinion.
Not a bad opinion. It's one that sometimes you share when you're driving along the interstate there, anytime you're in Iowa.
I saw some people yesterday over the last couple of days say that the loser has to claim a river adjacent city, Council Bluffs, or like I've seen people talk about Carter Lake and things of that nature. Let me just say, all are welcome. Council Bluffs, Carter Lake, all friends of ours here at 1620 The Zone. There's no doubt about it. And I think shame on the people from Iowa who are saying this, by the way, who say, "Oh, well, the loser has to claim Council Bluffs." No. I believe that is a good prize for the winner. We love land. We love all the great splendor that Council Bluffs brings our direction. We love the things that Carter Lake has as well. We are very welcoming here. And I don't believe that is an appropriate depiction of those two towns.
I mean, Carter Lake has no choice because they're surrounded by Nebraska.
That's right.
Because the river was set up to kind of go around it, but since the river diverted a long time ago, it got trapped in Nebraska boundary.
They never make clear when you go into, like, if you're going toward the airport from downtown, they make it clear that you are going into Carter Lake, but they don't make it clear, like, if you continue north when you are leaving.
Yeah, when you
Carter
get out,
Lake.
there's no welcome back to Nebraska.
Right. So
anything.
you could say that. I mean, Nebraska's or Omaha's airport is like basically in Carter
and
Lake.
It's like that on Locust Street, which kind of drives east and west into Carter Lake. There's like no sign for when you leave. There's not just Abbott Drive. There's also other streets.
Dave writes in, he says, "I have an opinion. Council Bluffs and Splendor have never been used in the same sentence before." You think that's true, Schaefer?
I don't know. Maybe someone walked into one of the casinos and thought there was a Splendor at some point in time there, but it's probably not been overly used to describe Council Bluffs or things inside of Council Bluffs. I mean, I think that's fair. I think it's fair. We're back to no chipmunk audio, by the way.
Okay.
That was incredible.
Speaking of chipmunk audio, we received a text from the 254. This is from the state of Texas. "I have an opinion. Schaefer hearing chipmunk voices because he got into that H-Town scissor." Is that true, Schaefer?
I don't think so. I think it was just a technical thing. And then my camera kicked me out and I was like, all right, I got to rejoin the StreamYard here. But if there's some sort of like way to bring in the open of "I have an opinion" where you sound like Alvin from the Chipmunks, you should try it sometime. It's just an enjoyable experience. Everything was hilarious.
Okay,
really
so maybe I'll go back and I'll pitch up my voice and I'll see, I'll live vicariously through Schaefer.
If I have time, I could experiment that.
And then like then Joey pops in and it's such a different voice, but it's also so high pitched. It was incredible. It really was.
So weird. That it would have been an amazing prank, and I'm sad that I didn't do it. But
Like,
well,
what's
we got high pitched Brian Christopherson on his Thimble Man open.
that is true. He's a
That's
thimble
true.
man. Here's Ryan in Delaware. I have an opinion. Nebraska basketball will play for a natty before Hoiberg retires. He's got the formula. Now he needs to perfect it. Ooh, Ryan, I don't know. I think this might be the perfect formula for him, honestly.
Well, they're only a couple wins away from playing for a natty right now. So
Sure.
I mean, that's the thing. So do they have 3 more wins in them? We'll find out. My brain has never once considered the idea of Nebraska playing for a national championship in basketball until probably this year when they were like 20-0 and you really let your mind wander. It's a possibility. I mean, like Butler played for 2 titles in a row, and I've kind of said it feels like Nebraska, if they're making this run to the national championship game, it's like a Butler-esque run where each time you're like, how do they keep doing this? And at this point going forward, maybe that's what we have here. Maybe it's a magical season all the way around.
Maybe. But once again, I mean, keep in mind that they could get better from a talent perspective or whatever, but the growth doesn't always get reflected in NCAA tournament wins. The growth doesn't always get reflected in the win column and things of that nature. There's just constant tweaks and stuff like that going on. So I have a hard time thinking that Nebraska will actually be in a national championship game, but they're probably the closest they're going to be right now. And so they have another
until
chance.
Saturday.
Until Saturday when they're even closer, and then you go beyond that as
There's
well.
a potential foul that's supposedly not a foul.
That could happen.
It
never
can
know.
happen.
Old man Doug has a variety of opinions.
Saw this. Which ones are you going to go with?
Okay, so he sent in an email and then he sent in a text. So there's another opinion as well. The email first. Number 1, Nebraska will not lose to a team that can't even afford air conditioning in their arena. #poverty program. Any thoughts?
I would not want to be in that arena of trying to watch basketball when it's just overly warm. That's just it's gross. So that's a good thought. It's a good thought. Good opinion. I support it.
Number 2, I am now embracing the crown as a way to honor Mac. If Creighton wins the crown, I will not advocate to hang a banner. Creighton's program is better than that.
It sounds like he's still besmirching the crown. I don't accept this opinion.
I don't. It will be funny when, like, if Creighton wins the crown, we have the exact same conversations we're having with the. Do you hang a banner for this? Like, what do you do? When do you do it? When do you open it? Like, does Creighton hang the banner for the Nebraska game next year? Remember there was that whole conversation with Nebraska from coming off of last year. I don't think there's probably.
Does Creighton start 20-0? Is Creighton in a Sweet 16 a year from now?
We will find out, apparently.
That'd be a great start to a new era at Creighton.
Number 3, for Al Huss, a J-sker is a Nebraska football fan and a Creighton men's basketball fan. Having said that, I'm pulling for Nebraska tonight. How can anyone root for Iowa? Purposely not capitalized Iowa. Thank you, Doug. All right. And number 4, Iowa has the most annoying fans in the world. They've never won anything except in wrestling. Wrestling, he says. They do have Caitlin Clark to talk about, but again, no air conditioning. Really? Those are all from Old Man Doug. All terrific.
Look, he is in a conflicted spot with the Iowa-Nebraska thing, but he knows he does not prefer Iowa ever. So there's that.
Text from the 402. I have an opinion. Happer is only saying those nice things about Council Bluffs and Carter Lake because they have casinos. Interesting.
That is true.
And wonderful radio listeners.
And wonderful radio listeners. Text from the 619. This is California. I have an opinion. Iowa corn sucks.
We hear that opinion a lot.
I know.
You hear that from people.
It's an interesting opinion. Then we go to John on the Equitable Bank inbox. I have an opinion. When even Washington, D.C., the absolute stupidest place on earth, is abandoning the streetcar due to cost and lack of use, it tells us where Omaha stands on the intelligence scale.
There's a streetcar like less than half a block away.
Do people
From here.
use it?
There's a streetcar in Oklahoma City. And look, these communities all have streetcars, and I don't know that there's like this mass demand of seeing people get on and off of them.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
Maybe I'll take the streetcar down to the game. I might look into this. Can just do a live streetcar stream.
Okay. This is good.
Heading to the Toyota Center. I'm going to look into this.
I would like to see this report from the streetcar. That would be actually hilarious. Travis, by the way, writes in on YouTube. He says, I have an opinion. Nebraska winning on a controversial foul, no foul call to make the Final Four would be objectively hilarious. I actually agree. It would be objectively hilarious.
Put me in the Final Four. I don't care how.
Yeah. Schaefer doesn't.
Yeah, Schaefer will sign up for that.
Schaefer says, I don't give a bleep.
Sign that contract.
Yep, indeed. John, another one from the Equitable Bank inbox. Okay. So he was just mentioning the headline stories there. Let's see. Seth, I have an opinion. Oklahoma City edition. I have an opinion. Governor Palan should have sent a text to the mayor of Oklahoma City or someone in the Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce and said, look, I don't think you know what's about to hit you. Get ready. Yeah, there should have been more communication there with Oklahoma City.
Many people were warned in Oklahoma City. Like, they just didn't understand it. They didn't get it. And, now they do.
It's another one from Seth. Sorry, I have one more opinion. Serving Nebraska fans is easy. Open at 8 and just have tubs full of cans of Busch Light, Bud Light, and some seltzers for the ladies. That's it. It's pretty easy. Cities need to learn from the drinking disaster that was Oklahoma City. Well, did you see the big pile of Busch Light that came in yesterday?
Yeah, I was wondering if you saw that tweet.
I did. Have you seen this with your own eyes? The big pile of Busch Light being truckloaded into the city of Houston?
No, I haven't really done the strong reporting that I was doing, the on the ground reporting at the bars and the drinking establishments that was happening last week. Maybe after tonight's game, we'll delve into if Nebraska can drink Houston out of Busch Light celebrating its Sweet 16 win.
Bad Takes Doug writes in the Equitable Bank inbox. He says, I have an opinion. Microwaves should only have one button, one 30-second instant button that you could press multiple times to increase cook time if needed, and maybe a 30-second button that has 50% power for melting butter and stuff.
What?
that might be my favorite I have an opinion we've had so far.
So while I agree with Doug that the microwave really only needs one button, it's the only button I use, the add 30-second button. It would be very weird if microwaves all of a sudden just deleted all their buttons and went had all this capability and could do a variety of different times and cook, levels and things like that, and just went back to one button.
Here's
you
another,
can only do 30 seconds at a time.
Here's another thing, because microwaves also serve as a clock. How would you set the time if that's the only button?
That's true. There would be no time anymore.
It pulls off of atomic time.
You just have to set it up.
Oh, you say it's the automatic time. Okay.
Automatic time. Okay. But I was going to say, you would probably have to wait until the top or the bottom of the hour just to set the exact time.
Schaefer, does your microwave pull off of atomic time?
No.
I've never had a microwave that's done that. I don't think any of them do. They're all plug in like I've
had one product ever that does, and it was off by like 12 minutes, which then makes me wonder if society is the thing that's actually off and not the time. So it was a very like existential thing for me when I dealt with this.
That's fascinating. That's definitely different. Yeah. Doug, I think I have an opinion that microwaves should keep the current amount of buttons that they have. So I got a follow-up text here from a friend. The popcorn button on the microwave, like what happens in the popcorn, I don't pop popcorn in the microwave. I have one of those like air pop deals, so those are really good. I do the defrost sometimes.
The
but generally-
defrosting is the one thing that I could think of where it has like a lot of value.
But if I'm throwing stuff in there just to reheat, I need to zap it real quick. I really only use the 30-second button. So if it's 2 minutes, I just press, or if it's 2 minutes, I press it 4 times. If it's 2.5 minutes, I press it 5 times. And it's just, I find it easiest to do it that way. I don't do like cook time to 30. I just, I don't know. I like that. I like the repetition of just hammering the button over and over again. Schaefer, you know this because I hammer the on-off buttons in the studio every day.
Sure, yeah. No, and you were the one. I had never had a microwave that had the 30-second thing, and we had this discussion on the previous show, and you were just floored by the fact I had never experienced the plus 30. So then when I ended up with one, I started texting you about it because I did understand the appeal of not doing anything other than hitting that button. I have a real quick additional microwave opinion.
Okay.
It is like the last thing I choose to use if I'm cooking or heating anything up. Like I never want to use a microwave unless it's like required or I have no other options. I mean, otherwise I will do the oven, I'll do an air fryer, I will whatever it is. I never really want to use a microwave. It's my least favorite appliance.
The air fryer has significantly diminished the microwave's usage. I do think it is still a must-have appliance. You have to have it.
You got to have it.
I've never seen a kitchen without it. But like it definitely gets used less now with the air fryers. For sure.
Its value has never felt less to me than at this point in my life.
Maybe it's time to buy low on microwaves. Maybe they'll come back, at some point in the future, and you could just get in on this dip right now. All right. That is, I have an opinion, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for playing today. We do have a call, but we don't have time to get to it. So sorry, Trevor. Although Joey, pick up the phone and ask him what his opinion was, and then we can relay.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We can relay it to people. Let's take a break. Brian Christopherson is our guest. Don't forget, Creighton basketball coach Alan Huss is coming up at the top of the hour for his first one-on-one interview as the Creighton basketball head coach. So enjoy that. Max Olson coming up at 9:15. Back after this on 1620 The Zone.
I'm a symbol man. I'm a symbol man. I'm a symbol man. I'm a symbol man.
Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7 on Happer and Schaefer, 1620 The Zone.
All right, we're joined now on the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline by our good friend Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. BC, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. You're in Houston, right?
Not quite. I'm in Denton, Texas right now in a hotel. I'm about a half hour from the grassy knoll in Dallas.
Wow. Okay, so you still got a few hours left on the trip to hack away here.
A few hours. I mean, it depends if I try to solve the JFK thing and I go at it for a couple hours there. So we'll see. But yeah, it's a 4-hour drive if I decided not to solve that.
Yeah, I think you can knock it all out before tip off. So I have faith in you. Well, what have been some of your favorite things that you've seen on the road over the last day or so here?
I ate at a great little barbecue spot in was it Salina, Kansas? Salina, Kansas. The Hickory Hut. Nice spot. They had Patsy Cline playing
Nice.
in the background, and it just had it had that vibe, like this is the way it's supposed to be, and so that kind of set a good tone for the road trip. I got to be honest, I have not minded it. The roads have been wide open. It sounds like all my brothers and sisters who so far have gone through air travel, it's gone well through Epley and stuff, so I'm hopeful that continues for everybody. But I don't mind having the rental and sort of having my own freedom. It's been all right.
I'll tell you what, you're going to be really happy on Sunday, or when everybody, you're going to see a whole bunch of videos on social media about how long the waits are in the TSA lines getting back out of whatever Houston airport they're going out of. You're going to be like, okay, bye everybody. And then you'll be off on your merry way up north back to Lincoln and Omaha. So I'm telling you, this might work out for you, BC.
Yeah, I'm not looking to have that last laugh on people. I really am.
I know.
I hope it doesn't.
But it's pretty good when you do.
Yeah, I won't laugh out loud about it. Maybe like when I get inside my house. But no, I hope those guys all, get back smoothly and it goes like it should. I was a little worried about that, so that's why I did it the way I did it, and I also kind of cut the price in half. But anyway, I'll be there at tip, and it's going to be something.
Let's get to the basketball here. You heard everything that was said yesterday. I think there's been a lot of time and effort spent on the sort of, the two games that these two teams have played. Schaefer and I talked about it earlier in the show, BC. Like, I feel like these are two different versions of even what we saw 3 weeks ago with the way Iowa has been playing, and certainly with their win over Florida. Nebraska has looked like a different version of itself as the NCAA tournament has gotten underway. What are we expecting, in comparison to those first couple matchups tonight in Houston?
Yeah, there's guys who have stepped up and become weapons that weren't weapons. Like if you go back to February 17th when they played in Iowa City in that 57-52 game, I remember, being impressed with Iowa's defensive intensity and how they control the boards, but also thinking, man, they just don't have any weapons besides Sturt. Like it just felt like it was a one-man show. It still can sometimes seem like that because he's got the ball in his hand so much, but you look at like Cooper Cox, the last 5 games, he's 20 of 37 behind the arc, and he hit 6 against Nebraska, and obviously Cale Combs went off. And so Iowa's had like 3 or 4 guys who I think have found it a little bit more offensively. They've hit some bigger shots the last couple weeks, especially this past weekend. But then Nebraska has guys who are playing, I think, with more confidence than they were on the offensive end in Iowa City too. And Braden Frager is one of them. Seems to have that bounce back. I think Rink Mass, you saw promising stuff in Oklahoma City, had the 7 assists in the first game, hits 3 threes in the second one. I think Rink's we've kind of been building this all year, but tonight's the night. It feels like if Rink could have one of those Rink specials that we have seen before in his Husker career where, he hits 3 or 4, but also is just efficient by the rim. It could make all the difference. We all know the basic talking points. The Huskers have to hold their own on the boards. That's going to be such a key. Obviously, the first game that did not go well at all. So that's probably the first checklist item, and then the second one is taking care of the ball. They've got to keep those turnovers down. The first game that was really an issue.
BC, I wanted to ask, what do you think a renewed, confident Braden Frager looks like in this Iowa matchup? We really, if you remember, the big picture coming out of the Iowa game after senior day was Frager was sitting kind of away from the team during a huddle, and there was the comments that he was so unhappy with how he was playing and all of these things. Frager was a big part of their win in Oklahoma City, obviously, the wins in Oklahoma City. What do you think it kind of does for this team and this offense overall if you've got him playing at a level that Iowa hasn't faced, frankly, in either of these two games?
Yeah, it's such a big deal. I think he had 6 in each of those games, and you're exactly right. That was the end of sort of a tough 3-game stretch for Frager to the sort of regular season. But it has flipped. Like I felt like he had that bounce back. It was really like the last 10 minutes against Troy where Braden got his groove back. I thought, he hit a couple threes. He had that runaway dunk, and you just felt the weight lifted a little bit. I loved how he attacked the other night. And, it wasn't only the big shot at the end. He hit a 3 in that game when it was teetering, when it was 61-57 Vandy. That was as big as any shot all night. And so when you can make a play like that and the winner that, it probably hasn't even processed for him yet that he's going to be seeing that, when he's 65 years old still, that play, that has to be sort of a trampoline, I think, into this weekend. He just has to feel good about his game right now. So, as much as anything, though, when Braden's really good, it's also when he's just got that bounce on the boards and can help the Huskers clean up there. So that's going to be as big as him getting downhill at points. But they do need that element tonight. There's no question. And that's the reason to be optimistic again. If you're a Husker fan, Iowa can point to, these 2 or 3 guys have stepped up on their side to make some bigger shots lately. But Nebraska, I feel like last weekend, Braden, Rink, Jamarcus, sort of that 3-headed monster that we were talking about in circles for like a month. Like, can these guys kind of figure it out? I think each had encouraging first and second rounds to get us to this point.
BC, one of the things that I and many others have been talking about this week is been kind of drooling over is the coaching matchup in this game. There are 2 guys who are really, really well thought of amongst their peers and certainly well thought of in the college basketball world and are getting their flowers this week, deservedly so, and Ben McCollum and Fred Hoiberg. I cannot wait to see, especially when you consider these 2 teams have played each other twice this year. There's the rivalry aspect of it as well. But I just think it's going to be so nip and tuck in the half court, little changes and tweaks that are made. We saw Fred go to the zone late in the game against Vanderbilt. There's going to be stuff like that happening all over the place in every possession. Is there an edge on either side as far as, the in-game adjustments and the coaching and all that stuff is concerned? Or, as you sort of line it all up, does it become more about even all across the board and it comes down to who makes more shots? I guess, how are you viewing this?
Yeah, it's a great question, Hap, because I think it is an excellent coaching match. And I can't say going in one side has the advantage over the other, because I really do respect McCollum as a coach. You just look at his history at different levels. All he does is win. So he's used to that, and he obviously knows how to build a tough team. That said, I don't bet against not just Fred, but like Nate Lenzer, in a game like this. Last time they played Iowa at PBA, yes, they know each other, but Nebraska threw some wrinkles and threw some stuff defensively that really took Sturtz out of shooting mode. I think he only had 10 shots in that game. And of course, Cale Combs and Koch got some buckets along the way, but I thought it was a really smart game plan Nebraska had. And so that will be really interesting, I think, in the first 10 to 15 minutes is like there will be some wrinkle that McCollum has for Nebraska, and then that Hoiberg / Lenzer and the staff have for Iowa. But I think you'll see teams adjust rapidly. That's sort of how it went at PBA. I thought the first half they were kind of filling each other out, like, okay, this is what you're trying to do to us in this game, and then they're both very good at adjusting. So there will be a filling out process, I think, for something that's just a slight tweak that each side does, and it could be all the difference, like who sort of figures out how to adjust the quickest.
BT, I'm curious. You've covered sports for a long time. You've covered lots of different teams. You've covered lots of different games. What has this season kind of been like for you? I mean, you've certainly the high point of Oklahoma City, the 20-0 run. Like you've been around Fred Hoiberg now for a few years and what he's done here. What's kind of the experience been like for you just covering this Nebraska basketball team? And here you are listening to Patsy Cline and thinking about JFK conspiracy theories and on your way through Texas to Houston.
Yeah. It's a good thing to think about because it's been my favorite athletic team to cover, I think. And there were some good football teams, especially early on when I got going. Like when I was in college, that was the end of the Soldier era, and I was blessed to have the opportunity to go with the Daily Nebraskan to the Rose Bowl with that team in 01 and see Eric win the Heisman and all that stuff. But there's something about a squad in hoops because it's there's not as many guys, and so it's not like I feel like I have just amazing relationships with everybody over there, but you get to know them a little bit and their personalities more because it's like sort of the same 5 to 7 guys who come up a lot. And, there is kind of that, I don't know, there is a connection that forms through that's harder to do with football, not because the guys aren't well-intended over there, but there's just more of them and all that. So, it's more of a monster, football is. So this has been fun, and just the way this team has not let I guess you would say it could have been the burden of Husker Hoops history past, overcome them. They've just been stronger than that, and I feel like every time it's not just when something bad has happened, when they've had good things that have happened that this program has never done before, what's impressed me the most about this particular team, as much as any I've covered, is they just move on. They actually do that. Yeah. They don't just talk about it. It's not just a press conference clipping. It's the actual truth because it's showed in the way they've gone about this season and their results. So that's their biggest, I think, advantage today. I think Iowa will be ready to play, but I don't know quite as much as I do with Nebraska. I really believe Nebraska, after watching this team all year, is not going to rest on its laurels of last weekend was so awesome. That's where this story has stand. I think they went back motivated on Monday, and they've just been built that way all year, and I expect them to continue that today.
By the way, BC, before we let you go, I did look up the Hickory Hut in Salina. It looks pretty solid. I think you made a good choice.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, it was just like a good family vibe. Like it was a family restaurant, and if you're rolling through there, it's worth supporting. And they had good music. Yeah, it just fit completely. And I wasn't sure about the driving all this way. And once I got in there and I was like, this is how it was supposed to be. Let's do this.
The dream trip rolls on. All right, BC, appreciate the coverage and you taking the time. Enjoy the rest of your travels this weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
See you tonight, BC.
All right, thanks, guys.
Ryan Christopherson from Husker 24/7. That's right. Mike Schaefer is in Houston waiting for the arrival of Brian Christopherson and maybe a couple more stragglers along today, as you do have all day to get there. Nebraska will play this evening in the first session of games, the second game to start tonight overall in college basketball. Of course, the first in Houston. We'll have those and Westwood One's coverage right here on 1620 The Zone. Let's take a break. We will round at the hour. Al Huss coming up at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. Back after this on 1620 The Zone. McMaster's matchup is here. Your shot to win $250 without even swinging a club. You entered in for a chance, and we'll select 20 people to match up with a golfer during a tournament of great significance coming up in a couple weeks. If your golfer wins that tournament of great significance, you win $250. Register now, 1620thezone.com. We will take the potential registrants all the way until the week of said event of great significance. And then we will assign you your golfer if you're one of the 25 selected. Alan Huss, the Creighton basketball coach, the new Creighton basketball coach, will join us in just about 10 minutes. I quickly wanted to touch on some things that I saw yesterday at Creighton's press conference and sort of stuck out to me. Greg McDermott was there, and the night before, he actually went and watched Doug McDermott, his son, and Ryan Kalkbrenner play against each other in an NBA game in Charlotte, which was really, really cool for him. And he said that was the first time he saw Doug play in a Kings uniform. And so
wow,
he's been there for a year or two now. And so he said he was really happy to do that on, what basically ended up being his first day of retirement, and how he came to the decision. He went to Phoenix or the Phoenix area for 4 or 5 days and kind of just sat there by himself and thought about it.
He went to the Phoenix area and concluded that he didn't need to live in the Omaha area anymore.
I mean, basically, yeah. I mean, he wanted to seclude himself and be like, all right.
I've come to that conclusion, but then I still return back on the plane because that's what you do after the spring training trip is over.
Yeah. Every single time you're like, oh, why do I live here again?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mac finally had enough, I guess. But yeah, he's like, it took some time to kind of think about it and all those different things. And then as far as Mac was concerned and his decision-making process and his thought process on all this stuff, we knew it was going to be Huss. We just didn't know when it was going to be Huss. And then, what did it look like when it happened? He really talked much more openly yesterday, Greg McDermott did, about his distaste for what college basketball looks like right now, which is the same thing that his peers and mentors have had for years in the industry. I mean, Jay Wright, I think, is the biggest one. Him and Mac were pretty close when Jay Wright was coaching at Villanova, and that was one of his things. It was just like, I don't really like the way this was headed, but it wasn't like and he said stuff like that before. It wasn't like a snap, break, I'm done, that's the last straw type of thing. He also, to go on top of that, believes that Alan Huss, who's about to join us in a couple minutes, is the architect of a lot of what Creighton is doing from that perspective, was so at High Point from a fundraising perspective, and is just more well-equipped to embrace the modern day of college basketball with all the stuff that you have to do that's off the basketball floor. And I thought that was interesting to hear.
Yeah, it's certainly got to be a departure from a guy who started his career at Wayne State and has grinded. I mean, we were talking about Ben McCollum. I mean, that was McDermott. Greg McDermott knows what it's like to be on the long bus trips and the logistics and all of it. And you spend your career, playing under one set of rules, and then things change. And, part of it is at some point you lose your capacity or willingness to adapt. And I don't think the coach aspect, the head coach aspect, is quite what it used to be. Certainly not the
basketball.
Yeah. And so there's elements of these things that are just a little bit different. And at some point, when you've had the career that he's had and you've gotten to where you are, you can look back and be like, all right, this is what I've done. I don't know that I fit with where this is headed, and it's maybe time for me to step aside. It sure sounds like that's where it is for him at this point. I don't know that it means his love for basketball has diminished by any means. No. It just means maybe an awareness of, hey, the sport isn't what I got into. And there's people that might be more capable than I am to handle this program at this point in time.
And the other thing you notice off of Mac yesterday was, I don't think he had really truly not allowed himself to really go there during the season because he felt like he owed it to this team to prepare for the games and get ready for everything. Well, now that it's out there and now that you're moving on, now this is it. I mean, next week I think is going to be really hard because I think he's going to, everybody's sort of going to be allowed to feel the feelings and all those different things. And Mac will continue to get his flowers from everybody. And I think Mac will be, a lot more sort of like, all right, yeah, I understand kind of what this is all about and be a little bit more reflective. So we'll get more on Creighton basketball with Alan Huss. He is the new Creighton basketball head coach who will succeed Greg McDermott. We will speak with him for his first one-on-one interview after being named after this. Our big day at Creighton yesterday as Alan Huss was officially introduced as the next and the now current Creighton basketball head coach. And Coach Huss joins us now on the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline. Coach Huss, good morning. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. All right. So are you the type of guy who, is excited to have an opening press conference or just wants to get through it? Like, what was yesterday like for you?
I'd like to meet that guy, the one that's excited for an opening day press conference.
Right.
I think thus far in my life, I've not met that guy. I think more so than anything, I'm pleased to have it done with so we can move on to things that are a little bit more pressing.
Yeah, I mean, and I assume you hit the ground running there. And this has been a process because you've obviously been there now for a year and back in the program. I guess what is the sort of transition of it look like over the coming days, and how soon are we hitting the ground running as we look ahead to what's coming up next year?
We're fully running. We've got the current climate of college athletics this time of year, this late March and April and even into parts of May is roster management season. So, we're fully entrenched in kind of our conference room, and it's working right now as our war room, trying to make sure that we retain the right guys and keep the guys that want to be in our program here and find some additional bodies to supplement what we do.
I want to, continue. You talked a lot about Mac yesterday, and you guys have obviously been friends for a long time, and I'll continue to let you sort of talk about him and what you picked up from him. When you think about Coach McDermott from does it stand out from a basketball standpoint, a friendship standpoint? How do you sort of think about and look back on your relationship at this point as he's now handed you the reins?
Yeah, but I think anytime you step into someone else's shoes, you immediately realize how many things that they were doing that you just had no idea. I mean, that happens, I think, every time you move a chair over. And there's certainly some of that going right now. But with Mac, it's just the relationships that he's able to, properly navigate, manage. He does an incredible job of reaching out to so many people in the community. And on top of the basketball part, which is, clearly he's had a lot of success there. He's even better in that space and navigating all the moving parts of relationships, across the country, across the city, across the university. It's really amazing when you take a step back. And like I said, when you put somebody else's shoes on, you realize there's so many other things that we just kind of take for granted when you're not walking in those footsteps every single day.
Hey, Coach, appreciate you taking the time here with us this morning. I'm curious, what do you feel like you learned when you took over a program in High Point that might be applicable here at Creighton, even if it's a different situation where you were here last year this past season with the group? What do you feel like you can kind of take from that experience of when you went to High Point and you had to sort of make it your own program, and you're going to have an opportunity to do that here with Creighton again?
I don't know if there's any one magic thing that I learned there, but it's more so just the little tweaks. And it's interesting that whole dynamic of, sitting one chair to the right of the guy for a number of years. And, human nature just naturally makes your mind drift to, I like this, I don't like this, and you're kind of making at times physical notes, but all the time mental notes on kind of what you think will work if you ever get your opportunity. And the interesting thing about college athletics, there's no guarantee you're ever going to get an opportunity to be a head ball coach. And so when I was fortunate enough to get it, it was for me, I was fortunate to know that the system works. I mean, it's clearly worked at Creighton over the years, and for 99% of my time was trying to best I could replicate what we did at Creighton. And then there were a few tweaks, and the beautiful thing about where I am right now and my individual coaching career, and I think I could extend that to the staff that came with me from Creighton and went to High Point, is we all got to kind of sit around and talk about what we wanted to change. And since we've been through that, we were right on a few things and we were wrong on a few. And I think we've got a nice balance of kind of where that, where the changes need to happen. And maybe some of the things I thought weren't productive for us here. But as I removed them from the program or added to certain things in the program at High Point, I realized that Mac was 100% right. I was wrong in those situations. So luckily, I think for the people at Creighton, we've been able to play through some of that stuff and mess with some of that stuff and tweak things and hopefully get us to a place where we're running at an optimal level.
When you're building from the ground up at High Point, Coach, you really have to have a vision. And you brought, you mentioned yesterday that you brought a lot of what you did at Creighton over to High Point and tried to almost copy it, right? And now coming back and taking the reins here, is there? I mean, obviously there's still a vision, but there's a lot of what you're doing and what you're going to do that is already sort of established. Like what's the mix of, sort of going off of what you've had before, what it looks like right now to ultimately accomplishing that grand vision for you?
Yeah, I mean, again, that's a difficult question, but I would tell you that when you come into a situation like that, there's firstly walk into High Point. That's not normal. Like it's such a unique place. The fact that they hadn't been winning, in my opinion, was really it was poor execution. The university kind of had everything in place, so all we had to do is kind of step up and work super hard, and we were going to get it to the right place. It was pretty obvious to me on day one. This deal's a little different because there's so many moving parts in college basketball right now, and what I took from that experience there is simple. It's just you have to be pragmatic in this day and age and college athletics, and if you react, it's too late. You've got to be forward thinking. You got to be outside the box, especially when you're in our situation where we're not we're not in the SEC and the Big Ten. We're in the Big East, and we desire to compete with those folks and beat those folks. We don't have a massive football budget that's dragging everybody else along in the athletic department. So we've got to be a little bit more pragmatic. We got to be a little bit more intentional with what we do. And when you're in a place like High Point, you kind of see the same factors at play. They've figured out a way to be kind of to function at an optimal level and use their resources. And maybe that's the greatest lesson is we got to make sure that we fall into that space.
Obviously, the crown affords Coach McDermott to kind of go out a different way here. But what does this tournament mean for you as you prepare for the upcoming 2026, 2027 run for Creighton? What are these next few days and the lead up to it, and then the crown itself mean for what's next for Creighton basketball?
Well, these extra workout sessions, practice sessions that we've been afforded, in preparation for the crown are probably more valuable than the games we're able to play there, just because you get to get a great look at where guys' mentalities are. Are they in wind down mode right now, and they're thinking, okay, how do I get through this next little period before we start back in June? Are they in ramp up mode? And I think guys that are in that second category are ones that we want to gravitate towards. We've got a few in both, but those guys that really love basketball, that want to get better, that no matter the time of year, no matter what the situation with the team is, they're thinking about getting better. They're thinking about their craft. They're thinking about our program. Those are the guys that do really well when they come back, and we flip to the next season.
How much time will it take? Alan Huss is with us, Creighton men's basketball coach. Coach, how much time will it take, if at all, to decide what you want to do operationally from a staff perspective and the people that you want around you?
I mean, we're working through some of that right now. We've got some folks that could potentially move on. We've got quite a few that'll be back, but I think you'll see more continuity than anything in our program. That was the aim when we put this plan into motion. Fortunately for me, I've got relationships with most of these guys, and we're gonna try to push it forward together.
You sort of took us down the resources route a little bit before, and I wanted to ask you, you've gotten really familiar with, I think where Creighton stands over the last year or so since you've been back, and this whole thing, came into fruition a few years ago. You have a pretty good idea. Like, how do you feel as you go out into the community and you sell Creighton and you talk about Creighton and all those different things about the support that you get both from the university and from the donor base, and how it sets you up to do what you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing for us is just to be on message. It's pretty simple. Central to, a healthy downtown Omaha is a healthy Creighton University, and central to a healthy Creighton University is a healthy men's basketball program and a healthy athletics department just in general. So, we've got to do our part. We've got to get our guys back to playing with joy and, get the fan base engaged. But we need them too. We need their support financially. We need their support as far as attendance goes. I mean, I don't know if there's ever been a time in college athletics where the process has been, so collaborative. Without all those things, it's difficult to be successful. And, we look at the fans as partners. And as I said yesterday, and I've said this morning, we didn't play to the level that we expected this year. We didn't perform there. And, that's our responsibility. We're going to work diligently to try to get back to where it was for the, first 15 years of Coach Mack and most of the 16 years of Coach Altman, playing with joy and playing with passion and make sure our fans are excited about it. And we absolutely need them to partner with us. And because without them, we're not going to be successful. Recruits are interested in Creighton University, a small Jesuit school in Omaha, Nebraska, because of the educational opportunities, all the other things that come along with it. But what makes us unique, right, is that 17,000 that shows up to CHI for a game on a Tuesday night at 8 p.m. We need that. We need them the fan base to be engaged. And like I said, we also understand our responsibility in the equation and know that we've got to be a little bit better to get people excited.
You mentioned one of the tweaks right away yesterday was the disruptiveness was the word you used on the defensive end. What does that look like, and what are the steps to put that into action in the early days here?
Well, we Coach Mack and I have been had a whole series of conversations on this for the last couple of years as to whether maybe defensively post Kalkbrenner, if it needs to look just a little bit different. The game's evolved, the way the game's officiated has evolved, and we consistently look at these advanced metrics in-house. I mean, this is certainly not unique to Creighton. This is across collegiate sports and basketball in particular. But you look at it and you just kind of look at that turnover rate and relative to your foul rate, and we are not creating enough turnovers based on the number of fouls we're committing. Now, with Kalkbrenner, we got to the space where we could really, really not foul, and we weren't creating very many turnovers. We drifted back to the pack just a little bit, that number, and so we're going to try to be a little bit more aggressive with our hands on the basketball and see if we can't deflect some more passes and start possessions with an advantage, for 2, 3, 4% more of the time. Which doesn't sound like a ton, but in collegiate basketball, so many of the games are decided by 2 or less possessions, and so a slight tweak like that can hopefully lead us to more run out opportunities. Just be disruptive, not allow teams to come down in rhythm and just run exactly what they want and bank on our ability to not foul, bank on our defensive discipline. So it's just a slight shift in mentality and maybe just a slight strategic shift as well.
Well, and I think what you're talking about is like, it's not necessarily in the personnel. I think the people that, the thing that some people go to right away is, okay, you're going to get more disruptive, then you need different guys to be able to do it. And is what you're saying is you're just asking, you'll have to get guys to buy in, obviously, but you're asking them to tick it up a notch a little bit and get in people's faces on the defensive end with, can you do that with similar personnel to what you have right now?
I think so. I mean, you just have to look down the road at the folks in Lincoln. I mean, I think they're a perfect example. They've got similar personnel to us. Obviously they're having a fantastic year. So, but their personnel, just generally speaking, they recruit skill and they're able to really dictate defensively with what they do. And, the folks over in Ames, Iowa, that do the same thing. And now the guy in Iowa City is doing the same thing. And, you look around and people have gotten more disruptive with their hands. And, we're going to aim to do just that. I don't know that it's going to be strategically all that great a shift, but just, just points of emphasis that will, when it comes to deflecting the basketball, will become more important. And I mean, if you just look at just the most general terms, defense is, the common rule is for us is to, try to avoid rotation at all costs. And I just think I think we've come to the determination now that, at times rotation is necessary, and we've got to clean up and be more effective in our rotations rather than, being hyper obsessive over staying out of them.
Well, Coach, congratulations, and enjoyed what you had to say yesterday, and we'll continue to listen and talk going forward, and enjoy Las Vegas and the last sort of run as an assistant coach. We hope for a while, even though there's some mixed in responsibilities as of right now, and we will see you down there. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate you having me.
Alan Huss, he is the head coach of the Creighton Blue Jays men's basketball team. Yeah, I sort of had that in mind, Schaefer, when he said disruptiveness on the defensive end yesterday. And really what they had been doing this year is playing the sort of drop style, keep everything in front defense without Ryan Kalkbrenner. Like Jason Green has kind of been like Ryan Kalkbrenner this year. Obviously not as dynamic of a shot blocker and shot effector as Kalkbrenner is and was. And so I'm thinking, all right, you got to kind of scheme your way into some things with the personnel that you have. There's two ways to do it. You scheme your way into it. Nebraska's done an awesome job at that, I think, and that's no knock. They've done an incredible job. Nate Lenzer's got all of his flowers. Or you just go way up in terms of talent and athleticism. And that's an option too. But I think the better option for Creighton is to sort of scheme their way into some of those things. And, I would go and you would see in the huddles sometimes and go to practices, and really there was a message, and it was don't foul, right? We're not fouling. That's not what we're doing, because they know how non-disruptive they're going to be on the defensive end, and they can't turn the ball over on the offensive end. Like, it's such a huge key. As Huss was talking about the numbers there. Well, it gives you a little bit more leeway, although it's more dangerous and risky. It gives you a little bit more leeway if you can create a couple turnovers on the defensive end.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. He sort of was pointing out, like, this is how they're doing it in Iowa City, and this is how they're doing it in Ames. This is how they're doing it in Lincoln. And there has been this sort of shift to a more aggressive, active defense here in the Midwest, at least with the schools that are, comparably close to where, Nebraska and Creighton find themselves. And so it makes you wonder if we're just sort of seeing a slight shift in some of basketball in terms of taking advantage of players' skill sets, or taking advantage of what some teams are doing offensively. There's always got to be the yin to the yang. And it is kind of, when he said that, I had to stop and think about it. It's like, there are some similarities with Nebraska and Iowa State right now. And Creighton seems under Coach Huss that they might be headed a little bit more towards that direction as well, stylistically. And it's just sort of fascinating to think about it in that sense.
Yep, no doubt about it. So we appreciate Coach Huss and Creighton letting us chat with Coach, and plenty more to come in the future. And we'll see how this roster shapes out, and the staff and all those different things. And of course, the college basketball crown.
Yeah.
Just got.
I was getting a crown question in there.
Absolutely. You could not do that, Schaefer. I'll be down there next week, starting on Wednesday. Creighton will play Rutgers on Thursday night. Let's take a break. Max Olson joins next on 1620 The Zone. All right, last week we hit about a fever pitch right around this time as we were getting ready for the Nebraska ball tournament opener. We got a little bit more time in between today, and let's talk some college football with Max Olson from ESPN. Max, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. Are you guys going to Houston?
Mike Schaefer, he's already there. Listen to it. Schaefer, say something. Oh wait, we can't hear him. There
I
he is.
am in Houston. See, it's another microphone I had to unmute this time, or turn on. Max, do you have any Houston recommendations in the third ward?
Schaefer, are you flying home or driving home?
I will be flying home. It will be a fantastic time on Sunday. I might just go right to the.
For the rest of your life. It's over.
That's what I heard. He was like, "Yeah, you better get ready to do the show on Monday."
Bro, it is going to be planes, trains, and automobiles for you, my friend. Good luck to you.
So what do you think? Like, do you think 4 hours will do it? Do you think 6 hours will do it before the flight?
I mean, are you going through Bush?
Yep.
Oh, it was nice knowing you. Yeah.
I'm just going to drive to Indy. We'll just go straight to Indy.
Like long-term Airbnbs you can find and just sort of, hold it down there for a little bit until the airports start working again.
The Airbnb that we're in is pretty nice. The neighborhood's fascinating. I have this big window that I've just been watching cars drive slowly down the street and people, interesting activity around me. But I'm not looking forward to the airport. Maybe just go right after the game on Saturday night with the win over Houston and see where Nebraska goes from there.
There you go.
Hey, Max, you are a Houston expert of sorts. Any thoughts, recommendations, places Mike Schaefer should visit this afternoon while he counts down to game time?
Oh yeah, I'll text you some restaurants. I think you can definitely have a good time out there. Hopefully it's a nice long stay there for the Big Red, and I'm excited to see. If we do get a Nebraska Houston game, like I'm excited to see. It's hard to tell red on red, but like I still think the Husker turnout is going to be pretty shocking compared to the home team.
Yeah, I kind of do too, Max. By the way, I mean you cover college football, but you're in Lincoln. Like, are you further and further prepared to live in this world where, at least for right now, Nebraska basketball is like the significantly more talked about program? Like, I'm sure you've gone over to spring practice at some point over the last 2 weeks and said, "Where in the heck is everybody?"
And I'd also say, like, me personally, like, I don't watch that much college basketball anymore, but I really cannot think of a time in my basement where my wife and I were screaming and jumping for joy quite like the end of that Vanderbilt game. Like, it's just one of those moments everyone's going to remember experiencing, whether you were there or not. And so this is providing a lot of joy for people at the moment.
How closely we'll throw this back to college football unless Connor has more basketball questions, but I'll bring a football one here. How closely are you watching this case with Nebraska has 18 players represented in with the College Sports Council? We've seen some more reporting on it. This feels like it could be a big deal, not just for Nebraska and those 18 players and their ability to secure money, but sort of how the structure of NIL payments and everything could exist with the decisions that come out of this.
Yeah, it's something we wrote about earlier this week and something we're watching pretty closely. And look, I don't say this as like a value judgment about Nebraska or any other school, but like I think the macro standpoint here is this is the thing that we're struggling with on a lot of fronts in college athletics, which is, people say we want to have guardrails and rules and we need to get things under control here a little bit. And then as soon as you like sort of stand up something like the CSC and try to, implement a cap and try to create some rules around how much people can pay. As soon as you do that, then everybody's sort of like, okay, well, we need to challenge this and strike this down. And we want these things to apply to our opponents, but not to us and stuff like that. And that's the challenge in a lot of these things. And so, right now you've got a situation where the CSC is trying to figure out how to do this stuff in the first place. And, Nebraska is like the tip of the spear here. And they're, those are 18 players. And the fact that some of them are not getting paid right now and they need clarity on this stuff. Nebraska needs to win this case so these guys can get paid. They're the first, but I can promise you guys, there's a lot of other athletic departments who are dealing with this right now and are getting these deals rejected. We've heard even just like for superstar players, like guys that you would say like, man, their brand value is pretty extreme. And not just football. I mean, this is dealing with all sports right now. And so I think it's I've heard from a lot of people that they are like rooting for Nebraska to win because they want to blow up the system. Now, I don't know what system they want to live in.
Right.
And this is not the case, but maybe it's just one where there's just no enforcement and there's no cap on this kind of stuff. But I certainly people are looking at the Nebraska situation and the state law that backs up Nebraska and saying like this could kind of blow up the system.
Is Nebraska a villain here, or the players are they villains here, or are they heroes? Like, I guess it all depends on your perspective, right?
It's a good question. I mean, I think some people look at this stuff and say like, what we're arguing about here. Other people say like, yeah, we knew you couldn't do that. That if Nebraska was doing deals with returning players where we're paying you a sum of money through PlayFly, so that not all of your pay is going to count on the rev share cap and all that. When you do these deals, they have to be able to pass muster with the CSC and the rules that they have. And if they're for large sums of money, and specifically if they don't have deliverables, if they don't have if they have payment schedules, but it's not very clear what exactly we're doing here that's actually NIL, then that's what's going to get flagged. And that's the CSC calls that warehousing, where we're just paying you a sum of money, and we're not really asking for approval on what it is you're going to do in exchange for that money. That's the thing that people sort of agreed, like, yeah, you can't do that. But as we went through the portal period in January and the re-signings in December, I think that a ton of these schools, it's just like, man, we're going to do what we got to do to get this stuff all figured out, and then we'll try to deal with this later with the CSC. And I think a lot of schools are in that situation where you've now promised money to players, and you're trying to figure out how can we deliver that, and you promise it in writing. And so it's a real challenge. Again, if Nebraska doesn't win this arbitration case, then you're talking about in a lot of cases like hundreds of thousands of dollars that are not being delivered to student athletes. And I think obviously that creates a lot of problems.
It feels like this doesn't happen because we're no longer in January, but there's still a lot of players that haven't found homes. Are you still kind of tracking this? Like, are you paying attention to, if a guy had left, let's say, a school out west and he ends up at Eastern Washington, like how much are you paying attention to this still, or monitoring the portal still of the guys that are still there? I mean, we know there can't be new entrants, but there's still players that in theory could be involved playing, next year, and they don't have a home yet.
Yeah, there's an interesting challenge there because there's no spring portal, and now the NCAA wants to establish rules that prevent anybody from circumventing the portal in April and kind of doing their own spring portal on the side here. But obviously, we're seeing injuries happen in spring practice, and we're seeing needs still emerge for teams. And so I think they coming out of the January portal period, there's people who are saying like they're already talking to agents about like, hey, let's line this up. You'll transfer outside of the portal, and we'll come in as a walk-on, and then we'll start paying you. By my count, we got about, in terms of like FBS scholarship players, we got close to about 500 guys that are still uncommitted in the portal. I do wonder, like, some of those guys I'm sure are already at junior colleges and stuff like that. But I do think there's going to be there might be a couple guys out there where you're like, yeah, nobody picked me up, but then all of a sudden this team had a glaring need coming out of spring ball, and they offered me a good deal to come in. So I could see teams kind of trying to go over that waiver wire again and try and find a couple guys to solve some problems for them. So hopefully some of those players that are still waiting for a call have some opportunities here in April.
Next, I wanted to ask you a Nebraska question. Because like I said, you've been around a little bit. The program over the last couple of weeks, and spring ball has been going on. And you've been around Rule for a long time. Is there anything that you sort of take away, notice that is, that is different going into this fourth year here at Nebraska? Obviously, they haven't won at the level that they've wanted to. I guess how do you feel from a vibe perspective about Nebraska when you're around?
Yeah, I think, when you talk about the roster, like, I think they feel really like they came out pretty good from the retention standpoint. Like, obviously you've got Dylan and Keona Davis and some of those, but like I think for the most part, like they were really pretty successful in terms of re-signing the guys that they wanted to re-sign. Now, obviously, some of those guys probably have deals set up with the CSC stuff, and there's some challenges there. But I think they feel good about what they've set up, and the sense I get from being around and going to practice and stuff is I think they feel good about the portal class too. Like I think there's certainly a lot of optimism about Anthony Calandria and just what kind of playmaker he can be, and how he can fit into what Dana Holgerson wants to do on offense. I think they're really high on Quasi Gilmer. They're high on the linebackers that they brought in. When I visit with them, a lot of talk about Jamal Rule, the freshman running back, and a sense that like, yeah, I know people wanted us to take a portal running back, but we feel like this kid's pretty legit, and we feel like we've got 3 or 4 who can play. And so I think there's, in a lot of spots, you're saying like, okay, I think we're in pretty good shape here. The true freshman corner. Like I think there's some good pieces they added to the puzzle here. Now, obviously, the schedule is a lot more challenging. There's no doubt about that. But I think, I think it has a chance to be a pretty scrappy team. And I think Bill Connolly just did his returning production study earlier this week. And I think Nebraska was like number 3. And that factors in, transfers you've added and stuff like that. But like, there might be an argument that like, when it's all said and done here, when you get to September, it's like, this might be a pretty fun team to watch.
Could be. Max Olson from ESPN. All right, Max, we will let you go. Thank you for, giving the information to Schaefer that that he's aware of at this point, but the prayers are welcome for Mike Schaefer.
Yeah, they are welcome.
Mike. T's and P's.
See you, Max.
See you.
Max Olson from ESPN. T's and P's for everyone. By the way, we get an email here. Paul wrote in on the Equitable Bank inbox and said, subject line, Houston Airport. My wife just flew back from Houston 2 days ago. She waited in line for 5 hours. Another person on her team waited 6 hours and missed the flight. So she drove to Dallas and flew out of there. You couldn't pay me to go to this Nebraska game. Many people, Paul, are paying to go, and then they still have to do the same thing when they leave, whenever that is.
They're paying a lot of money to go. Like, this is not a cheap ticket by any means. I think there was some hope that costs would go down closer to the game. Not so much.
All right. Well, T's and P's, once again, are very much appreciated. We will come back. We will send in a final prediction. We'll hit enter on Nebraska and Iowa in the Sweet 16 tonight before we get out of here on 1620 The Zone. But first, a word from Underdog Fantasy, where the tournament is rolling on. The upsets will continue. Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action because you can make picks and win money right now. In Nebraska, playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. You get those picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. How about one that I'm looking at on Underdog right now? P. Sandfort, 1.5 assists, higher or lower. That is an option for you tonight on Underdog. Check it out now. Download the app today. Use promo code HAPPER1620 to score $50 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code HAPPER1620 with Underdog. Make picks, win money. Must be 19 plus at present. Nebraska terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com for details. Consider with your play. Call 1-800-MY-RESET or visit ncpgambling.org. All right, welcome back. Connor Happer, and we're still working on Mike Schaefer. He's got some issues over there, but we only have a couple minutes left in the show anyway before we get on to the crossover, and we get to some other things with Matt, including but not limited to how he parks his car.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry.
Not a good look.
We will cover it. But before we do this, we have to make predictions. So here's what you need to know. Here's what you're looking at. Nebraska and Iowa have played twice against each other this year. Iowa won the first one in Iowa City, 57-52. Nebraska won the second one in Lincoln, 84-75 in overtime. Nebraska, according to Ken Palm, is a 3-point favorite in this game, or they're projected to win by 3. I believe they are 1.5-point favorites on most of the betting lines.
That's what I saw last time.
In that neighborhood. So they're projecting it to be tight. This is the Sweet 16. This is Houston. I think both fan bases will be pretty well represented at this game. And it might be the event of the night in college basketball, even in a Sweet 16 round, which is really, really cool.
With the best broadcasters on the call as well. Kevin Harlan.
Arguable, but he's good. Okay, so
My favorite.
I have a prediction, Mike Schaefer. Are you ready? I wanted to do my prediction, and then you can do your prediction, but also react to my prediction. I believe Nebraska is going to win. I believe that they are going to win in double overtime tonight. So if you want stress,
Yes, I
then
want stress.
how about stress of somebody, one of the two teams, getting a last-second shot to either tie or win to win the game at the end of regulation and at the end of overtime, and that either successfully happens or doesn't once or twice. We go to a second overtime where Nebraska wins by exactly 4 points by a score of 94-90.
Honk, honk. Look, I'll sign that contract, but I don't.
It's not a contract that's available.
I like saying this now. I like anytime there's sort of a predictive thing, I'm just going to go with that. But yeah, I mean, this is entirely in the realm of possibility. Both of the games were close. Nebraska got up to the double-digit lead at home, and then were unable to hold on to it. Iowa hit the shot to send it to overtime. I love the prediction because you go from regulation to the first game had overtime to, of course, the third matchup needs to have double overtime for it. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's more likely that one of these teams wins by 7 or more than we have a singular overtime game.
Okay.
There's something about this that feels like, okay, you've had a couple close games. I wonder if we don't have like a team sort of pull away a little bit more. And in the case of me, I'm pretty confident that Nebraska's playing its best basketball that it has in a while. I know Iowa is too. I just think Nebraska's best is better than Iowa's best. And I like the Huskers here tonight. I do. Who knows what I'm thinking when the game starts or whatever else. But right now, I believe that Nebraska's going to be playing. I expect it to be Houston as well on Saturday.
Joey, any thoughts?
I think this is going to be a low-scoring, close game. The first to 60 is going to win this game.
Whoa.
Iowa likes to play very slow, and it's caused some fits for the Huskers in that first game in Iowa City. And then Nebraska, like you guys mentioned, they had that lead, but they failed to hold on to it and got it to overtime, but they were able to prevail from there. But I like I said, it's going to be a low-scoring game just because of Iowa's pace. They're going to probably dictate how they want to play. And
what do you got?
I got like
He's doing it.
5-59 Nebraska.
Oh,
6-point game.
That's surprising. I thought you were definitely leaning toward Iowa.
I think Nebraska's. I think this is going to be advantage Nebraska with the crowd rolling through Toyota Center. It's going to be a larger crowd.
I thought you were going to pull the rug on the Lee Corso not so fast, my friend.
No.
All right.
I can't pick Iowa.
Now, if Michael Snow was here and I was wondering about his emotions, I would ask him, how does it make you feel that all three people on the show chose Nebraska to win? And he would say, I don't like it very much. So I don't know. Yeah. Is it possible that there's been a jinx that's been put in? I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to find out tonight. Schaefer, thanks for all your coverage in Houston. We hope to talk to you tomorrow morning.
We'll talk tomorrow morning. I'm not like
I can't wait.
I'm gonna exist no matter what happens here.
I don't know. Some people are arguing that. Some people are arguing that they might not exist if they lose to Iowa.
They will.
Okay, I think they'll exist too.
Everyone
right.
will exist.
Stay tuned to Schaefer's coverage on at 1620 The Zone at Mike J. Schaefer, of course, brought to you by Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill. And check out the tailgate this afternoon. That'll do it for us today on Happer and Schaefer. If you miss anything, 1620thezone.com is where you can find it. Crossovers coming up next.